Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second part of What If Kid Naruto Hides His Sharingan from Everyone. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto discovered that the woman in the scant clothing was, in fact, an examiner. Fantastic. Enko said, Ibiki, you're losing your touch, still so many. Ibiki waved her away with a snort. Alright brats, follow me and try to keep up. She reviewed the test's guidelines. Welcome to the infamous Forest of Death, ladies and gentlemen. Here will be the second stage of the exam. And from here onwards, people will start dying, said Enko with a smile. Enko handed out forms to the different teams and said, now, sign these forms so that we don't take responsibility for any deaths or anything. This was a little too happy for most genins' tastes. Now then, you will each be given a Earth, or Heaven, scroll, and you have to attain both and enter the main tower in the middle within 5 days, or you'll fail. Let me warn you, danger lurks everywhere and stay on your guard. Any questions? No? Let's get started. Team by team, please enter this tent to collect your scroll. Also, do not open your scroll before the end of the test, otherwise you'll automatically fail. And trust me, we'll know if you have, said Enko. Before leading team after team into the tent, Enko remarked merrily, also, if you show up with only one teammate, or only yourself and the 2 scrolls, you still fail. After holding the scroll, Naruto handed it to Hinata. Sakura gave him a bewildered look. She whispered, why Hinata? She has amazing vision and with Byakugan she'll be able to avoid the enemy, and plus she's certainly capable of protecting the scroll, said Naruto. The compliment caused Hinata to flush. The black gate loomed over them. By the gate stood a Chunin proctor. He smiled and said, good luck and stay safe, before turning to face the clock. Gates open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Team 7 then launched themselves into the woods. Isn't that fascinating? Konoha's demon child with the Sharingan? I now regret not applying the cursed seal to Sasuke instead of Naruto. Regretfully, he would have been delicious and had a beautiful body to inherit. Imagine that. The Kyuubi and the Sharingan, limitless power. I could have trained him and then killed him. The world would have bowed to me if I had become a kami. Orochimaru, the Grand Master of the world, was being praised by everyone seated. The supreme authority, including kami. It's unfortunate that I infected Sasuke instead, but I'm excited to have him when he comes to me for power. He will fall when Sasuke arrives. Those who seek death will eventually meet it. More than any other Anbu or S-rank missing nin, Sasuke actively pursues death. After I train him, Konoha and all the other hidden villages will fall because he wants blood to be shed. Kiba slumped against the tree and let out a painful cry. Shino lay on his back close by, still. Sasuke gazed fearfully at the grass.nin. He said, what are you? The grass.nin asked, what am I? And then laughed coldly. The grass.nin said, I'm your worst nightmare, and vanished. Sasuke kicked the grass against the tree after dodging an overhead swipe. In response, the grass.nin punched back, blocking the kick. Sasuke's head length. He was not quick enough, but he could see the fist coming. What is this power? What is this person? He pondered. Come Sasuke-kun, let me see your potential, and maybe if you give me a good run for my money, I'll tell you where Itachi is, the grass.nin replied. Sasuke gritted his teeth after his eyes widened. He charged at the grass-nin, hurling a wave of shuriken and kunai. He launched another wave of kunai as he leapt from his tree branch into the air. The second wave was shooting into the air as the grass-nin leapt above the first. The grass.nin smiled, and a clone materialized with a hand sign, throwing the grass.nin down. With a gleam in his eyes, the grass.nin landed after using chakra to suppress the fall. With his heel landing in a dropkick against the grass.nin, Sasuke descended. The grass.nin blocked the kick by raising his arms above his head and forming an X with them. Then, with his other foot wildly lashing out, Sasuke flipped backwards. It was too easy for the grass.nin to catch. For a genin that was supposed to be relatively inexperienced, it happened far too easily. Boo! He laughed and drew Sasuke closer before slamming his fist into him. Sasuke choked out blood as his eyes grew wide. He was deprived of all wind. Grasping the shirt, the grass.nin lifted him into the air. Before biting Sasuke's neck, the grass.nin said, I will give you a present, one that will grant you power. One day you will seek me out, and I will grant you power to destroy Itachi. Remember this Sasuke-kun. Semi-conscious, Kiba witnessed the grass.nin bite Sasuke's neck. What the devil is happening? I need assistance. He dragged himself up and leapt away, thinking. Only a few tree branches had passed before the grass.nin materialized in front of him. The grass.nin grinned evilly and said, "What do we have here? A mouse caught in a snake's trap. And we know what happens to mice who get caught, don't we?" Kiba was unable to respond in time as he saw the fist approaching his face. He fell to the ground. Hinata, Sakura, and Naruto looked around. They had gained an Earth Scroll in addition to their Heaven Scroll after an enemy team had fallen into their trap. They were up in a high tree branch, alert, scanning their surroundings, and feeling the presence of chakra. Subsequently, they witnessed Shino emerge from the forest, stumbling and colliding with a tree. Suddenly, a grass.nin slammed him against the tree trunk. They looked at one another and hurried along. Dodging the projectiles hurled at him, the grass.nin moved quickly. As he put it, "What do we have here?" Oh my, Naruto's gaze expanded. He felt the chakra of this man. It was so overwhelmingly evil that Naruto briefly shuddered. Hinata glanced at him in concern, but was met with Naruto's resolute gritting of his teeth. He looked at her. He said, "Run." Hinata's gaze expanded. "Go, he's far too powerful. Take Shino and run, I'll stall him for you guys to get away," replied Naruto. Sakura said, "We can defeat him if we fight him together, Naruto." Naruto looked back at the grass.nin, who was grinning eerily. After drawing a kunai and charging, Naruto said, "No, I'm afraid we can't. Please, run." Shino's head lolled to the side as Hinata and Sakura grabbed it. He was completely worn out. They quickly moved in the opposite direction, the way Shino had come, and grabbed him. The grass.nin caught Naruto's attention. "Who the hell are you? You are no ordinary person," he responded. The grass.nin said, "Naruto.kun, aren't you smart?" Naruto staggered backwards. He thought, how in the hell does he know my name? The grass.nin said, "Come fight me, Naruto.kun, and show me the power of the Kyuubi." He is also aware of the Kyuubi. Whoa! After grinning, the grass.nin charged ahead. Naruto concealed his Sharingan behind a genjutsu and activated it. Before one hit him in the stomach, he had just managed to block the series of kicks and punches. As he slid across the tree branch they were fighting on, he spat out blood. He gave the shaken looking grass.nin a glare before smiling. My, you seem to have the Sharingan. Quite the surprise. Too bad I already gave Sasuke a present. Otherwise I would have used it on you," replied the grass.nin. Naruto was completely taken aback. He was able to see through his genjutsu. What is this person? He can see past my genjutsu and moves as fast when my weights are off. Yes, you think I am foolish to fall for a stupid small genjutsu like that? I can easily distinguish your appearance, Naruto.kun, replied the grass.nin. Drawing a kunai, Naruto advanced and swiped at the grass.nin's head. Oddly, the kunai swished at nothing but air as the sound.nin's neck shifted back. The grass.nin squeezed Naruto's wrist until he let go of the kunai. Then, grabbing the grass.nin by the wrist, Naruto kicked off the grass.nin, slamming his feet onto the ninja and pushing off, landing several meters away. The grass.nin was gone when he looked up. He was swung around and felt his cloak being grabbed. When the cloak came loose, his eyes grew wide, and he took off for a tree trunk. He turned and covered his left hand and feet as he made contact with the trunk, landing with a smooth motion. After that, he pushed off the tree trunk in the direction of the smiling grass.nin by pumping chakra into his legs. Naruto pushed off the branch to get more air as the grass.nin smiled. With his fist cocked back, he charged. Before he felt a fist slam into his torso, Naruto swung, avoiding the grass.nin's head by a few centimeters as it dodged. Even though Naruto was quite toned for his age, the blow was still too strong for his hard muscles, and he choked out blood while retreating. Clinging to his aching rib cage, he gasped. He noticed the grass.nin smiling when he looked up. Swinging his arm at Naruto, the grass.nin advanced. Naruto barely ducked before wheeling away and delivering a chakra-filled kick to the grass.nin's groin. The grass.nin flew backwards, then turned and hit the ground with a smile on his face, though there was a hint of pain visible. All right, what the devil is that? There is absolutely nothing fair about that. I have no other choice. Rasengan won't work, and any other type of jutsu won't either. I can't show him my Rasengan because it would be useless and I couldn't hit him. He won't be struck by the great fireball. Naruto thought, I'm out of options here. Kuso. There is no water around, and he can see through genjutsu. I kicked him as hard as I could in the groin, and he hardly flinched. The grass.nin advanced before lunging towards Naruto. He slid, trying to use a leg sweep to trip Naruto. Naruto flipped over and used one hand to push off the ground. That's precisely what the grass.nin desired. After slamming his foot into Naruto's head, the grass.nin sent him sliding down the tree branch. Naruto let out a painful scream. He clenched his teeth and stepped forward. Through holes in his clothes, hundreds of splinters were protruding from his arms, legs, and stomach. The splinters pushed out of him as the Kyuubi chakra surged through him. The grass.nin moved swiftly while he was motionless, encircling Naruto with a strange tongue and supporting him. With a smile, the grass.nin tore off the remnants of Naruto's shirt. Before slamming his palm into the Kyuubi seal, he said, "Let me introduce you to a little friend of mine." Naruto let out a painful scream before passing out. With a sigh, Hinata fell to the ground. They had discovered Sasuke and Kiba, Sasuke with an odd mark on his neck and Kiba with big bruises. After that, they returned and discovered Naruto on a tree branch, face down. Naruto had been defeated by the grass.nin, shocking Hinata. After searching, Shino's bugs managed to find a strong defensive position where they could spend the night. They currently occupied a defensive position and shade from the weather due to a large, open, hollowed hole in the base of a tree. After wetting the cloth once more, Hinata laid it over Naruto's head. He had a kind of fever that Hinata was unable to explain. During the night when Hinata was on duty, he moved a little. She combed his hair with her hand. "I'll keep you safe, Naruto-kun. Just as you protect me, I will protect you." Hinata was unaware that Sakura had the same thought about Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun." Shino sagged against one of the hole's walls. Shino stated without emotion, "I don't think we'll last long if we're attacked by an enemy." Kiba gave him a look. "Don't be so bloody pessimistic. We should have a chance to at least give a good fight, right Hinata?" replied Kiba. Though troubled by Kiba's gaze and occasional glances in her direction, Hinata nodded. Shino turned to face Hinata as if he had noticed too. She nodded in response to his nod. He intended to discuss Hinata with Kiba. The night passed without incident, but on the morning of the second day, at around 9 o'clock, hostilities broke out. From the start, 3 sound nins came in. A sneering smile said, "We want the Uchiha. Give him to us and we won't kill you." Shino and Kiba stood up and exchanged anxious glances. Both were still hurt from the grass.nin attack, so they weren't operating at their best. While Sakura appeared concerned, she and Hinata stood up as Naruto and Sasuke were incapacitated. Shino stated icily, "No, you will not take one of our comrades." All 3 of the sound ninjas chuckled. The person with the bandages over his face said, "All right, then we'll just have to kill you all." They then started to charge. Shino collapsed, his ears gushing blood. He exclaimed, "I am ineffective. My bugs. The sound disables them." While Kiba wrestled with Dosu and Hinata stood, glaring at the final member, Zaku, Kin had trapped Sakura on her stomach and was sitting on her, tugging on her hair, and taunting her. "Oh, you're attractive." He smiled and said, "I'll love playing with you when you're subdued." Hinata activated her Byakugan and gave him a death glare. Her words were, "Dream on," as she charged. Zaku blocked, launching her away with an air blast as she fell, sliding across the ground after she swerved around him and flipped above him before slamming her foot down towards his head. "I will defend you all, Naruto-kun. That is my nindo." When Zaku used his compression air blast once more to deflect the barrage of projectiles, Hinata threw a wave of shuriken and kuani and charged, gritting her teeth because she was exhausted from keeping guard the night before and needed to finish this quickly. Hinata jumped back, dodging the deflected projectiles. Hinata thought, "I will definitely win if I can get close to him. He fights long range and never closes the distance." When Hinata looked to the side, she saw that Sakura had cut her hair with a kunai, pushed Kin away from her, and then started a violent altercation with her, punching, scratching, and kicking wildly. Sakura slammed her elbow into Kin's head and kicked her in the stomach, causing Kin to double over and gasp for air. Sakura then slammed her knee into Kin's forehead, followed by a large blow to Kin's face, causing Kin to stagger back before she blocked a kick from Sakura and went on the offensive, grabbing her leg and drawing her nearer. She grabbed Sakura's now short hair, then slammed her own knee into her forehead, followed by a leg sweep. After Kiba slammed Dosu into a tree and gave him a hard knee to the gut, Shino leapt back, avoiding Kiba's airwave attack. Dosu then advanced and launched his lethal close. range attack at Kiba, who rolled to the side. From the ground, watching the battle, Shino wisely stated, "Sound waves travel, but if you are in the node of the blast, then it doesn't affect the enemy as much." Kiba looked at his comrade before advancing once more to get closer and kicked Dosu back into the tree he had become familiar with. Dosu gave him a glare before charging forward with a ferocious war cry. After analyzing her approach against Zaku, Hinata turned back to Naruto. "I will keep you safe." She stepped forward, avoiding an air blast from Zaku's right arm, then rolled to the side to avoid his left arm. Hinata accelerated, approaching Zaku within striking range. He swung his right arm wildly, and she ducked, hitting his head with a kick, and he dodged. He punched her, and she blocked, her hand blocking two tenketsu. Zaku wheeled backwards, screamed in agony, and she stepped forward, slamming her palm into his left arm. Zaku screamed in agony, before she slammed her other palm into his remaining arm. She kicked him hard, to the groin. Zaku collapsed to his knees, sobbing in agony, his arms lying limp by his side. Hinata turned to see Sasuke, whose body was blazing with black marks, slam Kin into a tree, knocking her unconscious. Then, with quick reflexes, he broke Dosu's nose while Kiba collapsed, exhausted. "Cease!" Sakura exclaimed as she gave Sasuke a back hug. The three sound. Nins threw them their scroll and walked away as Hinata watched in confusion as the black marks disappeared and reappeared on Sasuke's neck. Zaku shot, "We'll meet you in the preliminaries," and the three of them hobbled off. With a sigh, Hinata turned to face the tree hollow. Naruto was no longer there, and her eyes widened before she felt two arms circle her waist. "Are you trying to find someone?" a particular voice inquired. With a gentle smile, Hinata turned to Naruto. "Nice fight." Naruto grinned and cocked his head to one side. Hinata turned a pleasant shade of red as she flushed. "I don't think I could have defeated him if it weren't for you, Naruto. You motivate me," Hinata reflected. Iruka smiled as Team 7 assembled in the hall and opened the scrolls together. The remainder of the journey was uneventful. They made good progress and arrived at the tower by the end of the second night, giving them 3 days of much needed rest. "Happy to see you guys made it. Do you notice these two signs hanging on the wall? They're discussing how relying solely on your physical or mental skills is not enough to succeed in the shinobi world. You need to balance the two. Sakura, for instance, is lacking in the physical realm, but Naruto and Hinata are not." After giving Iruka's sage advice a nod, the three of them quickly went upstairs to the sleeping quarters and passed out. When Hinata woke up in the middle of the afternoon, she turned to see Naruto reading a scroll in a chair beside her bed. As he scowled, she grinned and turned the scroll in different directions. Naruto noticed Hinata staring at him when he looked up. After blushing a little, Naruto thrust the scroll into his pocket. Naruto grinned and said, don't ask why I was rotating the scroll, Hinata-chan. Anyway, good afternoon." "Afternoon?" Hinata inquired. "Yes, you slept for a long time, although Sakura only got up an hour ago," replied Naruto. "Oh," Hinata said. Naruto grinned and assisted Hinata in getting out of bed, saying, "Well, you're finally up, time to eat." They proceeded to the spacious cafeteria, where a small number of shinobi were seated, many of them with wounds and bruises from the forest's perils and other shinobi. The vast majority of people were deficient. The majority of the Rookie 9 were seated there, and Naruto and Hinata glanced over to see Kiba, Shikamaru, Shino, Sakura, Choji, and Ino. There was no sign of Sasuke. After giving them a nod, they took a seat. Naruto said, "Sleep well, Sakura-chan." Sakura smiled as she said, "Like a log." "How troublesome, we all made it through. Although I'm glad we're all alive," stated Shikamaru. Choji said, "After all that fighting for a simple scroll, I'm still hungry," and got up to get more food. Kiba grinned and remarked, "Hinata, you were awesome fighting that sound ninja." Hinata looked down and flushed. With the exception of Kiba, Hinata, who was looking down, and Naruto, who appeared completely composed, everyone's eyebrows went up at Kiba. "Hinata-chan," Naruto said. Hinata looked at her crush and said, Naruto said, "Want to join Choji and get more food?" Hinata said, "Hi, I'm starving." Kiba could only scowl as they made their way to the catering table after Naruto helped her up and he saw Hinata's hand slide into Naruto's. "Kiba, stay away from their relationship. They're happy together, don't do anything stupid," told Ino. "I agree with Ino.Pig, stay away from the relationship of my teammates," stated Sakura. Kiba simply scowled before returning his attention to his teriyaki plate. "Whatever," was his mumble. Hinata glanced at Naruto, who appeared to be doing well. Naruto-kun. Are you okay? Hinata inquired anxiously. Yeah, I'm fine. Why? An inquisitive Naruto asked. You saw the way Kiba was talking and looking at me. Anyo, began Hinata. Naruto silenced the pale girl by putting a finger to her lips. With a gleam in his eyes, Naruto said, It's okay Hinata. Chan, I trust you. Never be nervous to ask me anything, okay? Hinata nodded, grinning. Hi, she murmured. She felt Naruto's lips brush against her forehead, and her eyes grew wide. The feeling of electricity flashed through her body once more, as if they had walked hand in hand. They had a sense of unity. Then it stopped as fast as the feeling was present. Come on. I bet you I could probably finish off this whole table of food. I'm starving, replied Naruto. Hinata tensed up a chuckle. The Sandaime Hokage stood in front of the remaining Chunin exam candidates. The Hokage inquired, Does anyone feel the need to pull out at this point? When Kabuto held up his hand, he was pulled away. Any other takers? If not, Hayate here will tell you about the rules for this examination, the Hokage replied. Junin stepped forward, looking sick. Hello, and congratulations on getting this far. Since we have too many genins, we will have a series of 1 versus 1 matches to half the number of you. There are several rules to this. 1. If the opponent surrenders, pull back. Kill them and you will be disqualified. 2. Obey the proctors of the exams. Should you ignore our instructions, you will be disqualified. 3. Although not a rule, try not to kill. Just injure enough for the other to surrender. Any questions? Replied Hayate. Naruto gave the man a quick look. He coughs a lot, as evidenced by all the pauses he makes. Naruto pondered, I wonder if he has an illness of some sort. Hayate nodded, and the large concrete room fell silent. Please look to the main screen for your match. Yoroi Akato and Uchiha Sasuke were the 2 names that were mentioned. Naruto discovered the Sharingan's flaws in Sasuke vs Yoroi. Sasuke appeared to be so dependent on his Sharingan that he would find it difficult to fight without it. Because using his Kekkei Genkai to track the enemy would continue to slow down his reactions, Naruto made a note to avoid relying on his Sharingan. Even though your eyes can see them, your body cannot respond quickly enough. Lee gasped as Sasuke essentially mimicked Lee's Lotus, but with a different finishing move, demonstrating Sasuke's complete lack of inventiveness in his moves. Something about the mark on Sasuke's neck later caused Kakashi to shuffle him away. Ninjas came and went, and Zaku blew his arms to smithereens after Shino used his destruction bugs to beat him decisively. His stubbornness made it unlikely that he would ever be a ninja again. Kankuro then mercilessly snapped Masumi's neck. His heedless disregard for his opponent shocked almost everyone. Hinata appeared somewhat pale as she held onto Naruto by the arm when Masumi's neck broke. As they watched Masumi being carried away on a stretcher, Naruto had kept her back by wrapping his arms around her waist. After that, it was between Sakura and Ino, which began with a heated argument that made everyone angry. Ultimately, both girls were knocked out simultaneously, resulting in a double knockout. Sakura was caught by Kakashi as she fell to the ground, and when she woke up, she grinned and Naruto and Hinata congratulated her on her valiant and hard-fought battle. Tenten, Hyuga Neji, and Rock Lee's teammate then faced Temari. Temari used a huge fan, and she had no chance of winning because she was a long-range specialist. Tenten had landed on a harsh angle on Temari's fan after she had blown her away when she had revealed her entire fan. Guy had to hold Lee away from Temari, and Neji's fists clenched fiercely. Next were Shikamaru and Kin, who were swiftly defeated when Shikamaru used his cage main to knock Kin's head against the wall, knocking her out and causing a nasty concussion in the process. At last, 2 more names, Inuzuka Kiba and Uzumaki Naruto, were displayed on the board. Naruto looked at Kiba, who smirked and bumped into him while he was walking. As Kiba walked down the stairs, Naruto gave him a furious look, but Hinata drew him to her and held onto him. She whispered, Naruto-kun, do your best. Her pale lavender pupilless eyes, filled with love, care, and concern, were all Naruto had for her. Placing his head against her forehead, Naruto grinned. After giving Hinata a quick peck on the forehead and idly walking down the stairs, Naruto said, I'll do my best. Kiba smiled confidently as he stood with Akamaru at his side. Kiba sneered and said, Hey Naruto, just give it up, I won't hurt you too much. Stop making assumptions, Kiba. I'll beat you for sure, Naruto retorted, looking bored. You're a man, aren't you? Why don't we bet on whoever wins, replied Kiba. Naruto's brows went up. What are you on about, Kiba? What does this have to do with the fight? Replied Naruto. Kiba's chest puffed out, giving him an even more assured appearance. The winner gets to keep Hyuga Hinata. Hinata appeared taken aback, and she flushed red as everyone's eyes shifted to her. Naruto was red too, but he was angry. As he appeared to castrate Kiba, Naruto angrily spat. Hinata is a strong, capable shinobi in her own right, not some prized trophy to be won. As he glanced up at Hinata, Kiba's confidence returned after a slight decline. He had a wild thought, she will be mine. Kiba mockingly said, accept the bet, Naruto. Or are you a coward? Naruto just gave him a scowl. Mock me all you want, but don't you mock my Hinata. Chan. And you have, and I will make you pay, said Naruto. The proctor appeared stunned as Naruto glared at him. Amazingly, he didn't cough as he said, well, let the fight begin. They faced one another as they stood. Kiba's face lit up with a grin. Kiba boldly declared, I bet I can beat you without needing Orochimaru. Naruto gave him a look. Naruto sarcastically retorted, you make a lot of bets. So much talk, so little action. Never one to let his pride get in the way, Kiba rushed ahead while Orochimaru stayed behind. He delivered a powerful blow to Naruto's face, which Naruto easily sidestepped by cocking his head to the side. After that, he performed a leg sweep, causing Naruto to leap back and skid across the floor. When Naruto raised his head, Kiba was standing beside him, swinging a huge right hand. After ducking beneath it, Naruto gave Kiba a forceful butt kick. Naruto playing with Kiba was a scene that almost everyone thought was funny. After becoming enraged, Kiba made another attempt at attack, swinging wildly to the left and right. Naruto backpedaled and dodged calmly. Unable to take it any longer, Kiba roared like a beast and delivered a forceful uppercut to Naruto's chin. When Naruto merely leaned back a little, the uppercut struck nothing but air. Naruto then kicked out languidly, making any Nara proud, and Kiba flipped back. Kiba was frowning because he knew Naruto could defeat Sasuke in a spar at the academy, but he had assumed it was an isolated incident. Kiba thought, Naruto isn't fighting right, maybe I need Orochimaru to help me. Kiba was perspiring. He chose to summon Orochimaru to him because he was low on chakra from fighting in the intense combat in the Forest of Death. He took out a bag, fed himself an Orochimaru, and then took another pill. Soldier pills, Naruto thought. Jujin Bunshin, yelled Kiba, and Orochimaru became an animalistic version of Kiba, becoming an exact replica of Kiba. Before Kiba let out another jutsu cry, they dashed ahead. Gatsuga. Naruto scowled as the two clones spun rapidly, producing a whirlwind-like effect as they charged. Naruto leapt as Kiba and Orochimaru approached them, but they missed him and were able to change course quickly, colliding with him. Blood spurted from Naruto's mouth as he let out a cry of agony and collapsed to the ground, still. With a wild smile, Kiba paused and triumphantly ran a hand through his hair. Despite Orochimaru's bark, Kiba chose to ignore him. He wanted to relish the victory over Naruto. He said, call the match, proctor. Sakura was so stunned that all she could see was how swiftly Naruto had fallen. He had fallen like a bag of potatoes with just one move. However, Naruto is Team 7's strongest member. How could Kiba defeat him? Sakura thought. Naruto's body poofed into smoke as Hayate raised his hand to call the match. With wide eyes, Kiba spit out, what the hell? With her arms around Naruto's neck and his around her back, Kakashi had been observing the happy conversation between Naruto and Hinata the entire time. They were both grinning and making jokes together, totally unaware of the altercation below. Kiba yelled, what the hell is this? Naruto gave Kiba a quick look. Yeah, I'm coming. So Hinata-chan, want to go get some Zenzai sometime? Replied Naruto. In response, Hinata nodded and grinned broadly. Although Naruto was aware that the adorable girl had many interests, there were three things in particular that brought her joy. He was the second, Zenzai was the third, and cinnamon rolls were the first. Furthermore, Hinata had not eaten Zenzai in a while, but she was more than happy to go eat it now that Naruto was involved. Neji winced at what she saw. Hinata is not successful. Given that Naruto is leagues more skilled than Neji, I'm not sure why she would even bother to get involved with him. Neji turned away as Guy gave him a strange look. Before Kiba became furious at Hinata's slight flush and both of their smiles, Naruto kept chatting with her. Naruto! Kiba exclaimed. Naruto gave him a startled look as he looked up. Naruto grinned, winked at Hinata, and landed on the ground, saying, Oh, Gomen. When you have a girlfriend like Hinata-chan, it's easy to lose track of where you are. Fight. Continue, was Hayate's mumble. Without hesitation, Kiba charged up his Gatsuga once more and went up to Naruto. With a Fuma Shuriken in each hand, Naruto appeared to reach behind his back. With a flick of his wrist, he opened them both, then slammed the shuriken against Kiba's Gatsuga while channeling chakra into his hands and legs. Kiba and Akamaru were stopped, and both clones leapt back as the Gatsuga miraculously slowed down. Naruto grinned. What the hell? Kiba murmured. The shurikens in Naruto's grasp then broke apart, with metal fragments tumbling out of his hands like dust. Then, just as swiftly as they vanished, Naruto reached back and extracted 5 more Fuma Shuriken in each hand. When he threw 2, one from each hand, Kiba was completely taken aback. After avoiding them both, Kiba watched in awe as they both turned and charged at the other man. Beast clone. After Akamaru narrowly avoided it, a 3rd, 4th, and 5th shuriken were introduced. After getting a cut on his arm, Akamaru poofed back into a dog and lay on the ground, whimpering and scratching. Akamaru! Kiba exclaimed. 10 Fuma Shuriken were flying around by this point, slashing Kiba in different places, but Naruto was making sure Kiba wasn't getting hit by anything lethal. He was a Konoha genin, even though he was occasionally a jerk. With a ninja wire fastened to each finger and to the corresponding Fuma Shuriken, Naruto was focused intently. He was controlling the Fuma Shuriken's flight pattern with the ninja wire. Kiba merely swallowed, watching intently for the shuriken as they kept turning and approaching. Slowly, they approached him one by one. Kiba jumped and dodged to the left and right. Then Kiba saw someone behind him as he landed from a jump. Knowing that he could have died if Naruto had wanted it, he was in excruciating pain and was already bleeding from multiple wounds in different places. This technique is so strong that I can't win, Kiba thought. The words, "game over, give up," were spoken by Naruto. As the lethal shuriken whirled around him and Naruto, Kiba nodded and raised his hand. Amazing, Kankuro exclaimed. Tamari thought, that kid's got talent. Naruto. Your flames of youth are burning brightly, Lee screamed. The Hokage of Sandaime bent forward. What a brilliant method. Hiruzen thought, Minato and Kushina, you would be so proud of your son if you saw him. Naruto gave Kiba a look. Just walk straight, I promise you that my shuriken won't hit you, replied Naruto. Kiba gave a bewildered nod and proceeded straight out of the shuriken dome. Then, where Kiba had been, a shadow clone materialized in front of Naruto. After saying, just to show you this technique isn't just fancy, Naruto crossed his body with his hands, pulling them to the other side. 10 Fuma Shuriken entered Naruto's shadow clone on either side of his neck at a dizzying rate as he knelt down and kept his head down as the shuriken flew. Quick decapitation, which was cruel but successful. After stopping his shuriken, Naruto removed the ninja wire from his fingers and packed them away. Knowing that she had assisted Naruto in making that move, Hinata had watched him perform it. Rewind. Naruto said, Hinata-chan, I've got it, do you trust me? Hinata nodded after giving him a look. With one hand on Naruto's shoulder and the other on his chest, she approached him. She embraced him and inhaled his aroma. It would appear to an outsider that they were about to share a kiss. But as they looked into each other's eyes, a dome of Fuma Shuriken flew around them, dancing. Hinata gave him a smile, her eyes gleaming with love and pride. She whispered softly, you did it. Naruto gazed into the pallid eyes of his girlfriend. Naruto grinned and said, yes, with your help, I was able to turn this into an offensive jutsu, not just a defensive one. Hinata gave him a big smile in return while tenderly petting his cheek. The words, I knew you could do it, came out quietly. Naruto's gentle response was, I could only do it because you believed in me. Naruto's fingers worked tirelessly as the shuriken flew around them innocuously, and all they could do was stare into each other's eyes. The flashback has ended. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto, was Hayate's response. Naruto smiled as he stepped onto the balcony. He just walked into Hinata's waiting arms after Sakura gave him a high five and Kakashi nodded. You did awesome Naruto-kun. I know how hard it is to maintain that technique, she murmured. Naruto responded in a whisper, you inspired me to show off that technique. Have you decided on what to call it? Naruto remarked, I'm sure we'll find a name to call it. We? Naruto declared, of course, I'm going to teach you it. After glancing at him, Hinata looked anxiously. Are you sure I can do it though? I might hurt you and I don't want that to happen, she replied softly. Don't worry, we'll do it, together, we'll be fine, replied Naruto. Hinata gave a firm nod. She said, hi. As she spent more and more time with Naruto, Hinata's strength and confidence increased, but she still harbored a secret fear that her failure would surface and harm her Naruto-kun. They looked at the board again. Hyuga Hinata versus Hyuga Neji. Hinata's eyes widened instantly, filled with pure terror. She appeared to be so brittle that she might break in Naruto's grasp if he reached out. Wishing it were someone else, she kept her eyes fixed helplessly on the board. Hinata jumped a little when two warm hands encircled her waist, then turned to Naruto. Hinata-chan, just do your best, I know you have the ability to beat him, replied Naruto. Hinata gazed at him with a little more assurance, her eyes gradually losing their fear. She said, quietly determined, I remember what you said when you were fighting Kiba. That I was a strong capable shinobi, and now I will prove it. After giving her a smile, Naruto gave her a forehead kiss. Do your best, Hinata-chan, it's all anyone can ask of you, and even if you lose against Neji, I will be proud of you, stated Naruto. After giving Naruto a quick glance, Hinata grinned and planted a peck on his cheek. She said, wish me luck, and left. Naruto grinned as she backed away. Naruto thought, Hinata-chan, you'll define. One Hyuga is visibly more cocky and haughty than the other as they face one another. Neji was a calculating, cold genius. He was aware that despite his cousin's increased competence and self-assurance, she was still vulnerable to verbal abuse while attempting to fend off her worst anxieties. Knowing that the branch family despises the main family, Naruto was frowning from a distance. Before he spoke, Hayate glanced at both Hyugas. Hayate said, all right, you can start when you're ready. As Neji scowled at Hinata, her self-assurance began to wane. She closed her eyes for a moment, straightened her breathing, and extended her left leg. Neji remained motionless. Hinata, before we start, a word of advice. Listen to me. You were never meant to be a ninja. You are far too kind. You prefer harmony over conflict, insulted Neji verbally. Hinata twitched and her eyes widened a little. Neji grinned, aware that he had offended someone with his words. You are weak. You're the head of the main branch family, and you're a failure. You're nothing compared to the rest of us, especially to Hanabi. You get beaten by Hanabi in spars, who is touted a genius while you linger in the shadows. You are a failure, Hinata, not only to yourself, but to your team as well. You feel inferior to everyone else, which is why you are so quiet and shy. You are worthless, Hinata, Neji screamed. Up until that moment, Hinata had been totally frozen, her mind attempting to block out Neji's voice. I can tell you're only here because of your team. The Chunin exams require 3 people to enter. The only reason why you entered is not to let down your team, Neji continued. No, it's not like that, Hinata exclaimed in a desperate manner. What is it then? You thought they could carry you through 2 stages of the exams and then you would hopefully get a shot at becoming a Chunin? I'll say this one, Hinata, you are nothing but trash, argued Neji. Hinata was on the verge of tears when a burst of light engulfed her. After covering her eyes, she opened them gradually to reveal a hill covered in grass and a slight breeze. She was at the foot of the hill, and the top of the hill was shaded nicely by a sakura tree. There, she saw a person reading a book. To get a better look, she turned on her Byakugan. To her utter surprise, she saw an older version of herself with much longer hair and a purple jacket and pants. Before an Anbu member wearing a fox's mask landed next to her, she was humming softly while reading a scroll. She saw her Naruto-kun, who was several years older, emerge from behind the mask. Her former self got to her feet and embraced Naruto, who then swept her around. He exclaimed joyfully, Hinata-chan, congratulations on making Junin. All the younger Hinata could do was gaze at her stronger, more self-assured older self. The younger Naruto-kun then materialized as Hinata blinked. Hinata-chan, I'm watching you from the balcony. Don't give in to Neji's taunting. Plus I'll give you incentive to win. And yes, this is what I call a soul escape, something used by a clan to help them escape from the past or to strengthen each other, although somehow only able to be used once in a life. So Hinata-chan, this is my gift to you. Do your best and I will cheer you on, and know that I do not find you a failure, laughed Naruto. The clan is reference to the Uchiha clan, however Hinata doesn't know that Naruto has the Sharingan. Hinata gained self-assurance and gave the ethereal Naruto a hug. Arigato Naruto-kun, she uttered quite quietly. Naruto grinned and said, Hey, if you win, I'll kiss you on the lips, before the picture vanished. The proctor was staring at Hinata when she turned to look. Are you okay, Hinata? Are you able to continue? Hayate responded. Yes, I am ready, Hinata declared as she took a position. Neji declared, you will be defeated, Hinata grinned. Hinata activated her Byakugan and charged, screaming, someone close to me told me that they are watching me. That they are cheering me on. That they believe in me. And I believe in them. Gazing at Hinata from the balcony, Naruto grinned. Neji prepared himself, activated his Byakugan, and charged forward as she did. Neji blocked her shot to his gut, and Hinata blocked Neji's shot to his shoulder as they collided in a flurry of palms. At that point, Hinata began to diverge from Juken. One of Konoha's smaller kunyachi was Hinata. She was small and petite, but she would grow. She then created a hybrid style of Juken with Naruto's assistance, making the most of her innate speed, agility, and flexibility. Before Hinata surprised him by spinning and kicking out with her foot, which Neji barely avoided, her palm slammed against his. Before pushing forward and pressing both of her hands forward, she turned on her grounded leg. The right palm struck his shoulder, numbing it, but Neji was able to avoid the left palm. He staggered back and gave Hinata a dagger-like glare. Neji yelled, you hit me. Amusing. You will never land a hit on me again in this fight, and continued on. With a flurry of backpedaling, Hinata dodged and blocked. Neji was targeting her brain, liver, kidneys, heart, lungs, and other vital organs, leaving her with no space to defend herself. When an opening finally presented itself, Hinata seized it, shifted her weight forward, and struck with all of her strength. To her dismay, Neji pulled back, clutching it, barely able to block it with his arm. He received no reprieve from Hinata, who persisted in her assault, putting Neji in a vulnerable position once more. Hinata was able to strike the shoulder and the same arm again. Neji leapt backward, separating himself from Hinata. She's using a different mix of Juken, damn it. I can't read it, Neji thought. Before charging again, Hinata slowed her breathing to allow oxygen to enter her body. Neji raised his hands in a defensive stance after tapping his Tenketsu to unblock them. Then, as Hinata was able to avoid his high swipe, her palm slid past his arms and onto his chest. He met her gaze, and she met his. She declared, I win. She failed to put chakra into her palm, which would have made it lethal, as Neji saw. He slammed his own palm into her chest in a quick reaction. Coughing, Hinata staggered back, gripping her chest. Hinata! Naruto exclaimed. As Hinata collapsed to her hands and knees, coughing up blood and panting, Neji sneered. He sneered, you are weak. The proctor was in awe. In this instance, she might have saved his life, but he had done the exact opposite by striking her fatally. He saw the older Hyuga turn to look at him. I win. She didn't incapacitate me or make me call the match, she didn't finish me off, therefore I win, Neji grumbled. Naruto was furious as people marveled at the Hyuga's savagery. The only thing preventing him from jumping over the balcony was Kakashi's hand gripping his shoulder. Neji said, call the match, again. Hayate started, the WI, but was cut off. Hinata gasped and stumbled to her feet, saying, I'm not done yet. Neji gave her a look. He yelled, die, and rushed forward. Hinata was wheezing with each breath and was hardly conscious. She lacked the energy to block and raise her hands in defense. As soon as Hinata fell to the ground, Kurenai, Kakashi, and Guy all stood close to Neji to stop. If Kakashi hadn't grabbed Neji's elbow, Naruto, who had a kunai, would have cut his throat when he appeared behind him. Then, to Neji's complete surprise, Naruto dropped the kunai. When Hinata's Naruto-kun rushed to her side, she was just barely conscious. As the stretcher bearers approached, she muttered, I lost. With his forehead resting on hers, Naruto whispered, no Hinata-chan. You won. I'm so proud of you. After observing the stretcher bearers remove Hinata and saying a silent prayer for her, Naruto turned back to Neji and proceeded to a pool of Hinata's blood, reaching down and scooping it with his hand before lifting it toward Neji with blood dripping from his fist. I'll beat you. Naruto pulled up his sleeve with his bloody hand and ran the blood down his arm, saying, I swear on it. Kakashi was taken aback. An eye for an eye is the salute people use when swearing retribution, Kakashi thought. After being led away by Kakashi, Naruto looked back at Neji, who shivered a little, and then he walked back up the stairs to his team, where Guy, Lee, and Tenten all looked disappointed in him. Neji snorted. Naruto was furious. His normally bright cerulean eyes had turned ice cold, and his gaze seemed to pierce his very soul. What do they think? Neji thought. The next 2 matches went by quickly. Lee lost to Gaara, crushing half of his left leg and arm's bone structure, and Choji lost to Dosu. The preliminary exams, in which the proctor handed out slips of paper to each participant, ended with Naruto paired with Neji, Sasuke vs Gaara, Shino vs Kankuro, and Shikamaru vs Temari. All of them were dismissed, and the exams will begin in a month. Neji was in front of Naruto as he left the stadium, and after sneering at him, Naruto intentionally ran into him before moving on. Neji remarked, "Hinata is nothing but a weakling," as Naruto turned to leave, and a kunai appeared a centimeter away from his eye. For a moment, Neji believed he saw Naruto's eyes flash red as he held it. Naruto said icily, "Say that again, and in those finals I will rip out your eyes," and turned to leave. The only thing that comes to mind is revenge. He should have honorably declared himself a loser, but instead he hurt my Hinata. Chan. I feel like I'm being consumed by revenge. He hurt her, so please save me from the things I want to do to him. He will pay for the harm he caused to my Hinata. Chan. I'll make sure he pays. I'm going to follow through on my promise that he would pay. Training will take a month. A month to refine the taught skills. To learn more about jutsus, 1 month. Taijutsu stances and forms are practiced for a month. A month to discover. They have a month to demonstrate their ability to become chunin. Blood and sweat, sweat and blood. To gain strength and increase their chances of becoming a chunin, a ninja will labor under the scorching sun 1 step closer to becoming a kage, anbu, a hero, or a junin, depending on who you ask. Nearly all of the genins were training diligently on the first day. The council had made Kakashi train Sasuke, and he had grudgingly taken him to a far-off mountain to do so. Asuma and Neji from the Hyuga family were Shikamaru's trainers. However, at that time, a single genin was not training. It wasn't that they lacked drive or a desire to succeed. Instead, it was because the person they sat next to was more important to him than it was. At the bedside of Hyuga Hinata, who was receiving treatment for terrible internal injuries sustained in the fight between her and Hyuga Neji during the Chunin exams, was Uzumaki Naruto. The latter had advanced to the 3rd phase. Unhappy to see Hinata in this state, Naruto sat silently while holding her hand. To rouse Hinata, the medic nins had put her in a medically induced coma. A figure approached the two slowly, staring at them with intense white eyes. Hyuga Heishi, the head of the clan, strode into the room. Slowly, Naruto turned around, nodding at him and staring at him with lifeless eyes before turning around again. After blinking, Heishi approached the bed. Heishi firmly said, "May I ask what you are doing here, Uzumaki Naruto?" The matter of fact response from Naruto was, "I'm taking care of my girlfriend." Had Heishi not had the Hyuga mask, he would have been angry, even furious. He turned to Naruto, though, and stayed fairly neutral. "Why was I not brought to the attention that my daughter is dating you?" replied Heishi. Naruto gave him another look. "It's signed on paper," Naruto retorted. Heishi looked at him and scowled. Naruto maintained an almost bored look. He firmly stated, "I have signed no such thing." With a sigh, Naruto turned to face Hinata. "I believe I can say one thing. That would prove that there is an arranged marriage between me and Hinata," stated Naruto. Heishi stared at him and blinked. "Well?" Heishi inquired. Before the faintest trace of a smile formed at the corner of his mouth, Naruto just stared. The response from Naruto was, "Hashi-chan." The eyes of Hyuga Heishi grew wide. He strode to the room's door and closed it, sealing it off from the world. After turning to face Naruto, he assumed an attacking position. "How do you know that?" Heishi inquired, still a little stunned. Naruto gave him a look. Heishi whispered, "How in the hell do you know that? Only 2 people know of that nickname. According to Naruto, Namikaze Minato and Uchiha Kushina. How do you know of that nickname? They died when the Kyuubi no Kitsune was sealed into you," replied Heishi. Naruto kept his gaze on him, but this time it was sorrowful. "They were my parents." Hiashi's brain performed a backflip before performing a 360-degree horizontal flip, which was a first. "Impossible." Heishi replied in a whisper. "You were my father's best friend. You both hated each other's guts, however he saved you on a C-ranked mission, and then you saved him later on in that mission, in which you both won the respect of each other. You were on the same genin team as Akon Yuri, who died some time after making Junin," said Naruto. Heishi was in awe. Heishi questioned, "How? How do you know all this?" Naruto retorted, "My parents told me." "Your parents?" It happened when we were fighting the S-rank missing Nin Momochi Zabuza and Haku, in which I went into a dreamlike state, my parents both giving me scrolls. Inside my father's scroll held this information, should I ever need your help or to gain your trust, stated Naruto. Heishi remained quiet while Naruto went on. What I will show you, must stay a secret, it cannot be told to anyone, stated Naruto. Hiashi's mask fell off with a single word, but he was already stunned and his brain ached from all those flips. Naruto muttered, Sharingan, as 3 black tomos gazed at him. The Kekkei Genkei virtually erased his doubts about Naruto's legitimacy when he whispered, my Kami. Heishi did the one unexpected thing that Naruto didn't anticipate. Weeping, he dropped to his knees and bowed at Naruto's feet. A soft, I'm so sorry, came out of his mouth. Naruto was stunned beyond belief. The strongest clan leader was on his hands and knees in front of him, crying, and he was the outcast. Naruto gave the sobbing man a gentle tug. Heishi was staring at him while on his knees with tears in his eyes. With deep regret, he said softly, how was I so blind? I failed you Minato, Kushina. Heishi. Sama, please. You know now. If you feel like you have failed them, then start from now on, said Naruto with resolve. Heishi nodded slightly and wiped away his tears. You are most welcome in my family. Should you want to become a Hyuga, I also offer you this right, said the man. Knowing it was an enormous honor to be asked to join a clan, Naruto bowed. My lord, I do not find this necessary, however, I have several requests, replied Naruto. Heishi signaled him to go on. My parents had a lot of money, I wish for you to take care of their estates until I am of the age appropriate, stated Naruto. Consider it done, Heishi answered. 2 main other things, it seems that you are neglecting Hinata. Chan, stated Naruto. Heishi gave him a sorrowful glance. I have tried to push her hard. So hard, it pains me to see, but it is only me keeping my distance that is protecting her from the clan elders. They want to put the caged bird seal on my daughter, as they say that she is weak and unfit to rule the clan, Heishi said. But does that give you any reason to treat your daughter this way? Replied Naruto. I have no choice. The elders are constantly demanding I place it on my Hinata. It burdens me so, Heishi replied. She isn't weak though, she defeated Neji during the 2nd stage, stated Naruto. Heishi gave him a look. What, Hyuga Heishi? Friend of my father, please believe every word I say. Hinata beat Neji, stated Naruto. But Neji progressed to the next round. Hinata couldn't have won, replied Heishi. Her hand landed on his chest, but she didn't put chakra in it so it wouldn't damage him internally. Instead of giving up honorably, Neji struck back and hence won, said Naruto. Heishi stroked his chin and scowled. Heishi remarked, this is unexpected. Hinata. Chan is strong. And getting stronger, I can testify to that. She would have made a good heir, stated Naruto. Heishi inquired. Have you forgotten your promise? Don't you remember when Hinata was pregnant with Hinata, Kushina with me? Replied Naruto. Rewind. The 2 mothers sat and laughed while sipping tea. Beside them stood the fathers, laughing about past missions. Kushina gave her a belly pat. Kushina smiled and remarked, I think our 2 kids will get along just fine. Hinata gave Kushina a look. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know that if they were of the opposite sex, they would probably marry each other? Replied Hinata with a grin. Oh, my baby's a boy. The doctor misdiagnosed the early signs, and it seems like my child will become a strong little male shinobi. Kushina joked. Really? They're going to get married either way. Let's make it official, replied Hinata. Namikaze Naruto and Hyuga Hinata were listed on the agreement in a written document. Minato and Heishi gazed at the result. Minato grinned and said, well, it appears that I will be related to you, Hashi-chan. Heishi gave an eye roll. Go die in a fire. If your hair was any brighter, I swear it would be on fire, said Heishi. Kushina said, play nice, you too. Yeah, Minato muttered. Minato. Kushina cried out. Heishi and Hinata chuckled at their friend's antics. The flashback has ended. So you plan to continue your father and mother's legacy? Heishi responded. Yes, I plan to marry Hinata-chan. Not now, but sometime in the future, replied Naruto. Then you have my blessing. As do you have my blessing for you courting her at this stage. I must go now, is there anything else you require of me? Replied Heishi. Naruto gave him a look. Train me. To defeat Neji. And treat Hinata like your daughter, replied Naruto. Heishi gave him a look. I need you to promise that you will not reveal to anyone our weaknesses, replied Heishi. Heishi briefly sensed Minato and Kushina's presence as Naruto grinned sincere. Very well. We will begin tomorrow. You may be my best friend's son, but I will not go easy on you, Heishi replied. With a low bow, Naruto said, Arigato Heishi, sama. Heishi gave a nod. With a nod, Heishi said, be outside the Hyuga complex at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and left. After taking a deep breath he had been holding, Naruto sagged into his chair. But then his eyes brightened again, and he grinned while clenching his fist. I appreciate you sharing the scroll with me, Dad. Although I am aware that I do not yet have access to all of it, I now have the backing of Naruto's Hyuga clan, which is the most powerful clan in Konoha. Naruto gazed intently at the Namikaze scroll, focusing on the blank jutsu section. Naruto muttered angrily, why couldn't you give them to me now, Otou-san? Naruto enjoyed learning new jutsus and general knowledge. When he was bored, he frequently went to the library in a henge disguise to learn more. He thrived on knowledge because he understood that all information, no matter how foolish, was valuable. He had already read his father's scroll multiple times, making sure he understood all of the information. Unfortunately, the jutsu section was the only remaining text to read. Naruto got to his feet, dispelling the enormous scroll into a much smaller storage scroll before it entered a genjutsu, covered hidden trapdoor. Naruto had read the small trapdoor that held his mother's storage scroll. On the other hand, his mother talked about her early years, how she first met Minato, and other things. Her jutsu lesson was unique in that it mostly concentrated on the Sharingan's weaknesses and how to use it. Being well versed in the Sharingan, Kushina taught Naruto the scroll habits and how to avoid depending on it. As he lay on his bed, Naruto fell asleep. Once more, he was oblivious to two figures observing him from a distance. At exactly 9, Naruto was standing outside the Hyuga complex, dressed in dark black cargo pants, a blue mask, and a black hoodie. He had two motives for doing this. For one thing, he didn't want Neji to know that Heishi was training him, and that other envious shinobi might find out that someone other than a Hyuga was being trained, which could be dangerous. Knowing the highly guarded secrets of the Byakugan and Juken styles could be worth dying for. Heishi showed up and gestured for him to come forward. He was able to enter after the two guards stepped aside. Naruto moved forward and greeted everyone with a bow. Follow me, was Hiashi's quiet voice. Naruto followed Heishi through the complex to a secluded dojo. Here, no one can hear or see anything. The Byakugan cannot pierce these walls, and I have guards stationed around this dojo. Only for the most secretive training is this place used. We will use this place, Heishi said. Heishi closed the door behind them as Naruto nodded and they entered the dojo. He gave Naruto a look. Heishi said, please take off your mask and hood. With a nod, Naruto took off his mask and hood. Heishi let out a sigh. Heishi remarked boredly, being a stuck-up asshole can be difficult at times. Naruto couldn't contain his laughter. Naruto laughed, and Heishi looked puzzled. Gomen. I've never thought a Hyuga would admit it. My Otou-san wrote that the Hyuga were pompous stick-up-ass types with inflated egos, stated Naruto. I'm sure you've met at least one Hyuga who isn't a stuck-up fool, replied Heishi. Yes, Hinata-chan, Naruto replied. Then Heishi got serious. What I teach you stays completely with you. However, I have one condition for me to train you, Heishi responded. Sensei. I wish to exchange knowledge about the Sharingan and Byakugan. It will only be passed down to 1 to 2 people at the most, stated Heishi. Naruto said, I accept, in response. Very well, I want to test out how good you are at taijutsu. Come at me, replied Heishi. After giving a nod, Naruto charged. With perspiration streaming down his brow, Heishi stood above a battered Naruto. I can definitely see you are Minato's son. Minato always would give me a run for my money in terms of taijutsu. I believe through pure taijutsu, you may possibly be able to beat Neji, Heishi replied. Naruto stood up with a wince. If you used your Sharingan, you would certainly be able to fight Neji, with a strong chance of winning, Heishi said. That may be so, but I definitely want to win. Not just for myself, but for Hinata-chan too, stated Naruto. Seeing a younger Minato in him, Heishi grinned. Very well, let's see how good your chakra control is. Heishi tested Naruto throughout the day and created a stat sheet indicating his level of proficiency. Very well Naruto, this is how I have ranked you. S is Kage level, A is Anbu Captain level, B is Anbu level, C is Junin, D is Chunin and E is Genin. These are only rough estimates, so you may be in or out, Heishi said as he handed Naruto a sheet. Naruto took one look at the sheet. B in Taijutsu. Genjutsu. D Genjutsu rebuttal. S the ability to lead. Ninjutsu. A chakra shops. S chakra management. D. Stamina. S reflexes and instincts. Avoidance. B. C for stealth feelings. B. Your reflexes and instinct, as well as leadership can be thanks to Minato. Kushina has helped give you her evasion and stealth skills. You certainly have good blood in you, Naruto. Your only weakness is Genjutsu. You can use Genjutsu, however it isn't extensively in your range, although your Sharingan is easily able to counter all but the most powerful Genjutsu. The Kyuubi can be testament to your stamina and chakra stores. All in all, you are one powerful genin, Heishi stated. Arigato Heishi. Sensei. No, it was all from your family, and lots of hard work. Some people are naturally born genius, but they lack hard work, preferring to rely on their genius. You however, utilize your genius and hard work to become strong, not taking many shortcuts, Heishi replied. Naruto, who is not accustomed to receiving praise from others, bowed and scratched his head. Very well, tomorrow we will start the hard stuff. Prepare yourself for 3 weeks of pure torture. The last week I must train Neji, so you better utilize the time you have with me effectively, Heishi replied. Thanking Heishi with a nod, Naruto departed the dojo. Heishi returned his gaze. He is utterly amazing. To have that much potential and talent at that age, truly amazing, said Heishi. For the next 3 weeks, Naruto would train with Heishi for 5 hours every day. Heishi assisted Naruto in strengthening his areas of weakness as he grew stronger, due to a significant increase in chakra stores and a forgotten seal. Naruto's chakra control had been waning recently. He had to dedicate several days to practicing chakra control, which allowed him to restore his control to a Hiashi's Byakugan was a miracle worker for Naruto's stealth, teaching him how to successfully conceal his chakra and hide from a Hyuga. Naruto's new stat sheet looked like this after that. Taijutsu. And B Genjutsu rebuttal, S. The ability to lead ninjutsu, a chakra shops, S. Chakra management. B stamina, S reflexes and instincts, A. Evasion. A stealth. A feelings, A. In front of Naruto, Heishi stood. They used Naruto's foundation to fortify him for 3 weeks. Heishi always advocated having a solid base upon which to build your strength if you want to be a good ninja. In light of this, Heishi assisted Naruto in strengthening his fundamentals, and to his amazement, Naruto never voiced any complaints and consistently expressed gratitude to Heishi for his time and work. Heishi had received information about the Sharingan in exchange, which had greatly confused his clan members when they were battling a Uchiha. However, since there were only 3 Uchiha remaining, Heishi would preserve this knowledge in case he had to shield Minato's legacy from Itachi. Another individual that Heishi had cherished, he appreciated Naruto's intelligence, and during recess, the two of them would discuss and argue about politics, battle scenarios, and Naruto's parents. Telling amusing stories about him and Minato's genin days had not made Heishi laugh so much. 3 weeks had flown by, but good things come to an end. With a note of melancholy in his voice, Heishi remarked, "These 3 weeks have in a way been a blessing in disguise. It felt like Minato and Kushina were with me again. Arigato for teaching me, Heishi. Sensei. Should you ever need my help, I would be most grateful to give it in any way I can," said Naruto with a low bow. Heishi gave Naruto a loving head rub. "I wish you all the best in the Chunin exams. Make those people see that you are strong, and that you can protect your precious people. And especially take care of my daughter. I must go and train Neji, and due to the pressure of the elders, I will have to teach him properly. They will be watching me closely, and hence not to jeopardize Hinata's position in this clan I must train him to my full ability. I wish you luck." "Namikaze Naruto," replied Heishi. After grinning and giving a grateful nod, Naruto vanished in a cloud of leaves. Heishi was aware of his destination, the hospital. When Naruto landed in Hyuga Hinata's hospital room, he grinned at his incredibly cute Hime, who was curled up in a ball. Naruto approached the bed and gave her a gentle forehead kiss. Hinata grinned while she slept, then opened her eyes and gave a gentle yawn. She had only been awake for a few days, and Naruto would spend hours by her bedside after training to keep her company. She would be discharged in 2 to 3 days, according to the doctors. Hinata uttered the words, Naruto-kun, softly before grabbing hold of Naruto, dragging him onto the bed, and contentedly cuddling up to him like a child with a teddy bear. Hinata yawned languidly as Naruto flushed. Hinata, still half asleep, whispered, "I wish this wasn't a dream, and that you were really here." With a gentle smile, Naruto said, "Hinata-chan, this isn't a dream." After Hinata's eyes widened, she turned a beautiful shade of crimson, let out a quiet cry, and passed out. After laughing and releasing himself from her death. Like hold, Naruto drew a chair over and took a seat. As he ran his hands through her indigo hair, Naruto whispered, "My Hinata-chan." He held her hand and waited for her to awaken after whispering softly, "Mine. And I will protect and cherish you with all my heart and soul." Naruto felt irritated. He detested a number of things in life. Assholes who preyed on weaker individuals were one of them. Perverts were another, and he was currently seeing one. Drawing a kunai, Naruto hurled it at the figure. The kunai in between his fingers was blocked as the figure spun. Naruto said icily, "What the hell do you think you are doing?" The figure smiled. It had red cheek marks, white hair, and funky sandals. "Research, and for your information, do you even know who you're talking to, Gaki?" asked the individual. Naruto spat, "A pervert." The figure performed a jig and exclaimed, "No, I am the legendary Toad Sanin, Jiraiya." The words, "You're my godfather," were spoken quietly by Naruto. After blinking, Jiraiya fixed the child with his intense gaze. Jiraiya cried out, You're Minato's kid." Naruto questioned, "You left me alone." "Why?" Jiraiya frowined after blinking. I couldn't handle the death of your father. I was also needed elsewhere. Konoha was weak from the Kyuubi no Kitsune's attack. I was needed to spy on other countries, in order to help defend Konoha, said Jiraiya. Naruto was enraged. "You left me," was Naruto's spit out. He clutched at his stomach as he instantly twinged in pain. Jiraiya hurried over right away and pulled Naruto's shirt up. As he pumped chakra into his hand, he noticed Orochimaru had placed the seal. He uttered a few words before cleaning Orochimaru's seal with a slam of his fingers. After gasping in agony, Naruto shook off and stood unsteadily. Naruto remarked, "I recall that now. Some nin put a seal on me." Jiraiya inquired, "Could you use chakra during this period?" "Yes, it required a lot of focus but," Naruto answered. Jiraiya grinned and remarked, "You have been blessed in a way. I bet your chakra control is even better now." He is correct. With you, that jerk sealed my chakra. This is why you were unable to speak to me, a recognizable voice said. Kyuubi, Naruto thought. Nice to meet you, Kit. Thank you. However, I have not forgiven you for abandoning me, replied Naruto. I'll make it up to you, Gaki. How would you like to learn how to summon toads? Jiraiya responded. When Naruto asked, like my Otou-san. Exactly, you would be able to summon toads to use in battle. A very handy technique, Jiraiya replied. Kachiyose no jutsu, Jiraiya said, and a toad carrying a scroll appeared. After giving him the scroll, the toad vanished. After giving Naruto a quick glance, Jiraiya unrolled the scroll. Jiraiya said, sign here with your blood. After gazing at the scroll and seeing Jiraiya and Minato's names written there, Naruto bit his finger and signed it. There are many questions you have, I'm sure, but let us just get this out of the way, Jiraiya replied. With a shout of, Kushios no jutsu, Naruto nodded before executing the hand signals and slamming his hand to the ground. Naruto stood atop Gamabunta's head as a huge cloud of smoke appeared. What the hell? Who summoned me? Jiraiya, what is the meaning of this? Gamabunta yelled. Naruto said, I summoned you instead, Gamabunta, Sama. Gamabunta boomed. You, Gaki? Impossible, you can't have summoned me. Gamabunta. Sama. I am the heir to the toad. Summoning contract, Namikaze Naruto, said Naruto. Minato's child. Yes, the resemblance is uncanny. Very well, since your father was such a good comrade, you may summon me when needed, said Gamabunta. The enormous toad vanished after Naruto nodded. Jiraiya's mouth fell open. He accepted you just there and then. I had to ride on his head in order to summon him, Jiraiya replied. Naruto grinned. There is 1 week left until the Chunin exams. Train me, and I will forgive you further for abandoning me, stated Naruto. Jiraiya spit out, this is blackmail. Naruto retorted, this is you owning up to your mistakes and correcting them. Fine, Jiraiya muttered. According to Naruto, arigato, ero, senin. Don't call me that Gaki. Arrow. Senin. Gaki. Arrow. Senin. Gaki. In a dimly lit room, 11-year-old Hyuga Hinata sat on a chair with her head in her hands and tears streaming from her eyes. With only one light hanging overhead and swinging and creaking, the room was desolate. Hinata glanced up at the black screen on the wall across from her. Then, words and kanji flashes. Being alone, hatred, 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 hatred. 2. Hatred, hatred, her father's words. You are a disappointment, boomed. Tears filled her eyes as she responded, no, I'm not, on the screen. Yes, you were. Hiyoshi's face appeared on screen, stern and unyielding, as he said, you cannot even beat your younger sister. You are a failure. No, 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 Hinata screamed as she rocked in the chair. You are not fit to be the heir, 2. You are the pride of the main branch, and you are worthless. No, you are. Get out of my sight. The Hinata yelled, Tou-san. On the screen. Hinata muttered, no. Please. Please, but she was unable to look away from the screen. Being alone, hatred, fear, hopelessness, hopelessness. Hopelessness, hopelessness, sadness, weep. Weep, 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 then you pass away. Perish, perish. Hinata couldn't keep up with the rapid flashes of death and destruction as the screen turned red. Blood. Soaked figures, a shinobi wielding a kunai, and a sizable contingent of mothers with children. She saw flashes of warlords, fires, tsunamis, a fox with 9 tails, and massive disasters. However, she saw herself as the final figure. Everything was dark, including her icy, dark eyes. There was a faint trace of something darker in her eyes, which were the same shade of pale lavender. Her face was endowed with a malevolent grin. Shuddering at the sight of her so evil, Hinata blinked through her tears. With a voice that was an exact duplicate of Hinata's, the figure innocently asked, why do you cry? Because I am a failure, Hinata muttered. What will crying do? Relieve my suffering. Will sobbing actually make your pain go away? Hi. Avoid deceiving yourself. As usual, you're lying to yourself. I am not. If you keep this up, there will be nothing left of you. What do you mean? You will be consumed. Consumed. Hi. By what? Your own fear. My own fear. Failure, sadness, rage, nervousness, and anxiety. These feelings are all part of the human psyche. These are your fears, but loneliness is the one you fear the most. That nobody will care about you or love you. Isn't that correct? Said the evil, looking alter ego Hinata. Who are you? I am you, but I am who I am. Yes, but what lies far beneath you is me. All the bottled up feelings. I'm not real. Your thoughts are what have motivated me to exist. Are you an alter ego? I am who I am. I can't alter. I won't change either. I'm not a persona. After all, this is just a figment of your imagination. This is just a fantasy. Yes. You retreat here when you are frightened. Scared. This is a superficial world, filled with nothing but you. You stay here because you are frightened, and do not want to be hurt anymore. No. That is untrue. I'm not scared at all. Really. What about you dreaming of Naruto-kun hurting you, breaking your heart? Do you remember that dream? You cried for hours, and you hid here. How are you aware of that? Like I said, I am you, you are me. No, you're not me. You are a totally different person. Stop lying to yourself. When will you figure out that you must face these fears, sooner or later? No, I'm not required to. Nobody can create me. If you don't, you will die. And when you die, darkness will consume you, and no one will be able to save you. Isn't that right? Because you're all alone. I'm not by myself. Really? Hello, I'm not alone. Really? Hello? Really? I am not by myself. Really? I hate myself. I'm lonely, and I'm alone. I can't look for attention. Nobody hears me, and nobody sees me. I'm by myself. Lucky you. You won't be alone. Huh? You are destined to have a soulmate. Perhaps. Perhaps you will never visit this place again. Perhaps your soulmate will save you from the darkness that consumes your soul. Perhaps. The altar vanishing, Hinata shuddered, tucking her head between her thighs and raising her feet as tears streamed down her cheeks. Why? Why me? She let out a scream. Unconsciously shuddering, Hinata shook the memory's sickening sensation away. Darkness, she pondered. It was only now that she recalled that memory, and at that moment it haunted her to the core. She gazed at the 3 wooden poles that served as their initial training ground as genin. Unconsciously, Hinata grinned. The day that I met Naruto-kun, Reminiscent of their time together and the time he had gained the confidence to kiss her on the cheek, Hinata grinned. He would then visit the hospital every day, usually looking worse for wear, but he had vanished for the past week, claiming to be going on a covert training trip. Gazing at the posts, Hinata let out a sigh. She pondered, I wonder when Naruto-kun will return. Abruptly, a figure encircled her waist with powerful arms. The figure put their hand over her mouth just as she was about to scream. Before the figure whirled Hinata around, she was stunned. And there he was, Naruto Uzumaki. Before Hinata realized it was him, she felt a sudden embrace. As he spun her around, she grinned and laughed joyfully. She gazed at him, his new appearance entirely unfamiliar. He was wearing a rough, long, sleeved white shirt with a cape and a hood that was nearly entirely white. The hood was on his head, hiding his blonde hair, and the inside of the cape was red. And consider Assassin's Creed's Altair, Ezio. He was not up, but he wore a white mask that resembled Kakashi's. A few people were able to see Naruto's genuine smile as it hung loosely around his neck. That was the case with Hinata. You're back! Hinata joyfully exclaimed, putting her arms around his neck once more. Hi, Naruto said gently, his arms encircling her in a protective embrace and his forehead pressed against her. The moment Naruto showed up, Hinata's pessimistic thoughts vanished. Perhaps he can defeat the darkness, Hinata thought cheerfully. Then Naruto took Hinata's hands and became solemn. Naruto uttered the words, Hinata-chan, I will have my revenge on Neji for what he did to you, serious. Hinata scowled. Naruto-kun. Revenge is not good. Do what you wish with my cousin. But I beg you to spare his life, replied Hinata. Naruto said, he nearly killed you. How can I guarantee that? In his eyes, Hinata gazed. Because I know that you are who you are, and that I am who I am. And I know that you, Naruto-kun, will not kill in cold blood, since you are far too good for that. No, I know that you can hold your word to not killing him. Please, do not kill my cousin, Hinata once more said. After scowling, Naruto sighed and nodded. Naruto finally said, all right, I swear I won't kill your cousin. Hinata grinned. She remarked, good, I'll hold you to that promise. Hinata pivoted, gazing at the stadium that towered over her, where she would see her cousin and the man she loved. Naruto questioned, Hinata-chan, do you think I am strong? Hinata looked over at him. Of course you are Naruto-kun. What makes you doubt that you are strong? True strength. I wonder what true strength really is. Is achieving it possible? Replied Naruto. Hinata gave him a look. I believe it is. I believe true strength is fighting for everything you believe in, and everybody who is precious to you. That is how I lost to Neji. I was outclassed, but I almost beat him, Hinata replied firmly. After grinning, Naruto approached her stealthily. Hinata backed up against a training pole and turned to see Naruto smiling. Hinata was having trouble breathing. He was very near. She turned crimson because she couldn't help it. He reached up and gently cupped her cheek. Naruto gently closed the distance and asked, do you remember my promise, Hinata-chan? With her eyes still wide and fixed on Naruto's azure eyes, Hinata nodded naively. Her body was immobile, and her mouth refused to speak. Well, Naruto leaned forward and said, I think you actually won. Naruto shot back as two figures suddenly emerged from the bush. Sakura and Ino were engaged in a heated argument and hardly gave the couple any attention. Sakura exclaimed, Urusei Ino.pig, I am far superior. No way, I am better than you. If you didn't have such a large forehead I would have won, responded Ino. Sakura and Ino spit out their tongues, then turned to see Naruto reading a book calmly and Hinata, who was flushed. Ino inquired, did we interrupt something? Hinata said, no Ino-san, it's fine. Sakura bent forward. Naruto? Naruto gave her a smile. Yo, he said. Whoa, a fresh appearance, she muttered. Not bad, isn't it? I'm impressed. This reminds me of the cool look you had before. Ino interrupted, saying, one of those Anbu, should you take away the cape? I mentioned Ino.pig. Sakura shouted. After giving Hinata a quick glance and both of them shrugging, Naruto and Hinata walked away from the two girls arguing in the dust and toward the stadium, taking each other's hands. With the crowd gathered around him, Naruto stood in the center of the stadium, looking down the line of competitors while holding his cheek where Hinata had kissed him before leaving to go into the stands. The majority of people are here to witness the last Uchiha, Naruto said, but Sasuke is missing. I wonder what string they'll pull to get him to compete. Jiraiya and the Sandaime Hokage stood at the top of the stands, observing from a distance. For the 30th time, Sandaime declared, Jiraiya-kun, I don't need any help. All I want to do is hang out with you, sensei. Jiraiya responded, nothing more, even though his true intention was to keep Sarutobi safe. The Kazekage gazed down at the group, but in reality, Anbu intelligence had warned that there might be an attack of some kind, so the Konoha shinobi force was on high alert, with many more on duty than usual. Who is Hokage? Dono the first, the Kazekage inquired. Sarutobi responded quietly, I think it's Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Neji Kazekage, Dono. Really? The Kazekage retorted, I've discovered that Uzumaki Naruto is not all he seems. What are you saying? Sandaime inquired, assuming the Kazekage was speaking of the nine-tailed fox that was imprisoned inside Naruto's abdomen. Everyone had turned to watch the Kazekage as he spoke, his voice rising above the noise of the entire crowd. It has come to me from a completely reliable and trustworthy source that Uzumaki Naruto is really a Uchiha. Immediately, the crowd erupted, and after a range of reactions, everyone turned to gaze at Naruto, whose face was hidden by his mask and his eyes were wide. When Naruto heard the Kazekage speak, his whole body froze, and the crowd went crazy, shouting at him and calling him a liar. Naruto was used to this, but people were shouting that he was a liar and a fraud, and he shuddered, trying to block out the world. Similarly, Sarutobi and Jiraiya were stunned, remembering the wave mission when Zabuza mentioned the Sharingan, but they thought he was hallucinating and that Naruto could not have the Sharingan. Hinata thought, if it's true, why didn't you tell me? That is untrue. Deception, cheater. A Uchiha is not possible for him. Naruto closed his eyes and prayed for a speedy conclusion as voices broke out. The Kyuubi's voice said, calm down, it will be alright. After taking a deep breath, Naruto opened his eyes. Silence. They all stood up and turned to face the Sandaime Hokage. Sarutobi thought, pardon me, Naruto, but this is for the best. Perhaps the villagers will treat you better this way, since you cannot hide this forever. It's accurate, he declared, Uzumaki Naruto is actually Uchiha Naruto. The crowd erupted once more, with the odds abruptly shifting in Naruto's favor and everyone looking forward to the first fight. A Uchiha versus a Hyuga. Legends of fierce battles between these two clans were commonplace. The arrogant Uchihas versus the clandestine Hyugas. Naruto was taken aback. Why? Naruto asked himself. Why? Everyone had frozen, including Hinata. It was astounding to think that Uzumaki Naruto was actually a Uchiha. Sakura was shocked to learn that her teammate was actually a Uchiha. Anko sat next to a stunned Iruka and thought, the Kyuubi. Brat is really a Uchiha how interesting. As the Sandaime Hokage raised his arm, the commotion gradually subsided. Enough waiting, let's begin the Chunin exam final stage, he said. Fireworks flew into the air, and the Kazekage smiled as the crowd roared. With a sly smile, he thought, it's all going to work out. Expose Naruto, shock them, and then strike when the time is right. Due to the economic and political importance of the event, Gekko Hayate stepped in between Baki and the Anbu after escaping Baki with the help of some unseen people and delivering the warnings. As a result, the Chunin exams continued. Please, could the two following contestants stay, while the other contestants stay? Gekko said in a loud voice. While Neji and Naruto remained on the floor, the participants moved to the stands for discussions. Excellent. Hyuga Neji versus Uzum. Uchiha Naruto will be the first match, Gekko yelled. How do we know Naruto is who he really is? A voice from the crowd screamed. The stadium echoed with cries of agreement, and Naruto, still reeling from what had happened, looked around before reaching up slowly, lowering his mask and pulling back his hood. Naruto pulled up the mask and drew back his hood, asking, satisfied, with an irritated expression. All right, you can start. Gekko jumped backwards away from the two and yelled. The crowd leaned forward to watch the match, and Neji was the first to move, closing his eyes and lifting his fingers. Goodbye. He screamed, his veins showing. Naruto calmly brought his fingers to his lips as he gazed at him. He uttered the word, Sharingan, and opened his eyes. He stared back at Neji, and the crowd gasped as three black tomos began to swirl. Impossible. You. Uchiha. And, the Kyuubi brat. This isn't feasible. How is this possible? After standing erect, Naruto turned to face Neji and drew back his arm to reveal Hinata's blood still on it. People immediately began to whisper and lean forward even more, indicating that Uchiha Naruto would not show any mercy. Sarutobi gave Jiraiya a look. You removed Naruto-kun for a week, then. How did you force him to do it? Jiraiya inquired. Jiraiya smiled. There are 3 primary points. Strength, speed, and stealth. The 3 S's, Jiraiya answered. The Sandaime Hokage gave him a startled look. Yes, the 3 S's. A solid base upon which to build. How did he fare? The Hokage inquired. Outstanding. It's frightening how much potential he has. He is unquestionably the son of Minato and Kushina, Jiraiya said quietly enough for the Hokage to hear. Indeed, was Sandaime's gentle message. Naruto caught Neji's attention. Stop. You are at the mercy of fate. Your fate dictates that you will lose, he said. Naruto gave him a fierce look. Go to hell. Destiny is meaningless. You can resist fate, Naruto said angrily. I'm not intimidated by your rage. Neji responded, and yes, your fate says that you will lose. Under his mask, Naruto grinned. I'll bring you down to earth if you are so naive as to believe that nonsense. Neji Hyuga, I'll beat you, Naruto said. With that, the battle that everyone had now been expecting would start. Hinata was observing intently as Naruto stood facing Neji in a tense and unsettling atmosphere. Naruto-kun, she thought, do your best. Neji's eyes widened and he jumped to the side, rolling on the ground, as Naruto slowly pulled out 3 kunai in his palm and threw them at him with incredible speed. At that moment, Neji realized what the kunai were for. Uchiha Naruto was nowhere to be found. Under Hiashi and then under Jiraiya, Naruto had developed the ability to completely conceal his chakra, which was nearly impossible in the shinobi world, especially with a person with as much chakra reserves as Naruto. Neji was searching around, trying to find him, when he spotted him. There, he thought, behind the tree. The clone smiled and vanished as Neji charged at the tree, then skidded at the end and slammed his palm into Naruto's chest. Smoke from the clone erupted and more smoke bombs were thrown down, covering the area in smoke, and Neji, who was blind and could not see through the smoke, was hit in multiple places at once. An elbow to the head, a knee to the gut, and a fist to the groin before being flung back into the center. Neji gasped, attempting to pull himself back up, and Naruto strode out, smirking. I hid underground because I knew you would discover my clone and attack it. I could have beaten you there and then in the cloud of smoke, and I have the advantage. However, you can thank your cousin for my decision to show mercy. Naruto's response was, surrender, you know you have lost. With a sneer, Neji got to his feet. What information would you have about me? I'm doomed to be a servant for eternity, Neji shouted. You can still live your life despite that. It's just a barrier to get past, but you're weak. By taking advantage of those who are weaker than you and adopting the belief that fate is predetermined, you conceal your weakness. You are aware that fate is always changing, and you can't stand to see your cousin Hinata superior to you. So you tried to kill her. You tried to kill my Hinata. Chan. After she obviously prevailed. And now. You will pay, Naruto spit out, rushing. Then, Naruto slammed his fist into Neji's cheek, followed by a leg sweep, and then he did a handstand and attempted to kick Neji, but Neji rolled away. Neji stood up, while Naruto flipped up, arms at the ready. Neji charged, while Naruto jumped backwards, blurring through hand signals. Naruto charged, and he moved much faster than Neji. Doden. Doryu Taiga. All that was required for Naruto to charge forward and attack the opening was for Neji to stumble on the ground he was standing on to turn to mud. Neji smirked as his feet struck solid rock beneath him. Someone was assisting him in defeating Naruto, and he would not allow Naruto to escape punishment. Naruto saw his change in posture, but it was too late. He had only one chance, and in an instant, he had raised his fingers to his lips and muttered a word. I am within striking distance of you. Rokuhuion Sho Hake, he uttered those words. 1 2 4 8 16 32 64 Neji smirked as he walked calmly up to Naruto's limp body, which vanished in a cloud of smoke after Naruto flew backwards, landed on the ground, and lay motionless. Nani? Neji thought. Neji froze as Naruto stood behind him. Neji screamed in agony as Naruto drove his face into the ground, dragging him face first along the hard dirt before throwing him in the air and kicking him across the arena, his foot planted in Neji's abdomen. How are you doing? Naruto asked, then slammed his knee into Neji's back before the shinobi could react. Naruto then flew through hand signals. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Neji, who was severely bruised and bleeding in multiple places, was pushed into a spinning motion by instinct. even though he was sucking in oxygen from the kick. The big fireball was headed straight for him. Kaden. Defending himself against the fireball, Neji flew like a whirlwind. When he stopped, he saw Naruto's fist slam into his jaw, then another fist hit his stomach. Neji staggered back, but was tripped by two clones behind him and fell to the ground, while another clone overhead landed with an axe kick. Wow! While the opponent was in Kaden, he completed all of that. Unbelievable. He's brilliant. Neji's lifeless body was in front of Naruto. Surrender. Naruto moved forward, a kunai to Neji's neck as he stumbled to his feet, gasping for air. Surrender, he said again. Naruto staggered back, aware that he was about to enter a world of agony, as Neji slammed his head into his face and swatted the kunai away after staring at him. Hake Rokuhuion Sho, 1 2, 4, 8, 16. 3264 Neji grinned as Naruto flew back and hit the ground. I appear to have won again. With a knowing smirk, he stated, fate can never be changed. Naruto had obviously won, but Neji had attacked him again, and Hinata was enraged. Sakura put a hand on her shoulder, and Hinata looked at her. Naruto is going to be alright, she whispered. He promised to defeat Neji, and he will. After giving her a long look, Hinata nodded and grinned gently. You're right, hi. He'll beat Neji, she declared. The adage, behind every great man is an even greater woman, is accurate. Every tenketsu appeared to have been sealed, and Naruto was in a world of agony. He rolled onto his stomach and raised himself up onto his hands and knees, as if breathing were killing him from the inside out. He exclaimed, it's not over yet, and Sharingan turned off. He staggered to his feet, panting, and Neji gazed at him for a moment before a glimmer of darkness appeared in his eyes. He had the upper hand, the advantage. His opponent was unable to use chakra, and it hurt so much to move at all. Perish! He screamed and charged forward, aiming for his heart with his palm up. Knowing that he might provoke the wrath of the Hyuga clan and numerous other political leaders, Hayate refrained from interfering. In an instant, Neji closed the distance and his palm struck Naruto's swaying body, right where his heart was. Time appeared to stop. Like fresh rain, enabling life to emerge from the earth. A timeless echo, that is. Similar to the sound of grass swaying in the wind or the gentle murmur of trees. Naruto gazed at the hand that was pressed to his heart. Would the sky weep for me if it had the ability to cry? Naruto pondered. Neji glared at Naruto while gazing into his eyes. After grinning, Naruto fell to his knees and choked on red blood. Neji stood up, his hand poised to hit Naruto in the head if he reacted. Surrender, Neji said. With his hair covering his eyes, Naruto remained silent. At last, Naruto looked up at Neji with a defiant expression. He inquired, when will you tell them? Neji scowled and attempted to hit him, but he halted out of pure curiosity. Neji questioned, what are you talking about? Naruto questioned, when will you tell them that you are a fake? The crowd erupted in laughter as Naruto's words were heard. After blinking in surprise, Neji raised his head in a furious manner. Neji spit out, what are you talking about? Naruto grinned once more, his eyes gleaming. You are a fraud. A fake. You are not Hyuga, Neji, said Naruto. Neji said, you lie, that is impossible. Is it really? Perhaps all you are seeing is genjutsu. Perhaps this entire fight everyone has witnessed is nothing but a fake, a fraud. Have you ever thought of this concept? Have you realized that I have fooled you so well, that you are unable to see past the genjutsu? Replied Naruto. What the hell? You dare mock the Byakugan? We are all seeing, Neji yelled. Naruto smiled. Then he was gone. The crowd gasped, and Neji looked around in disbelief. A fist struck Neji's face, and just as fast as Neji felt the blow, a knee struck his forehead and his head was grabbed. Neji was kicked with an axe from above as he flew back. Naruto's foot slammed into Neji's face as he fell to the ground. Then he vanished just as fast as Naruto had come. With his voice resonating throughout the arena, Naruto questioned, if you cannot see your opponent, are you able to fight them? In a desperate attempt to sense Naruto's chakra, Neji turned. Then he experienced a slight nudge to his left. There, it's too late. After slamming his fist into Neji's head, Naruto pulled Neji's head back with a kunai that materialized in his hand. Naruto tightened his hold on Neji's hair as he screamed in agony. Despite Neji's best efforts, Naruto's hands were like an iron grip. Neji could only scream because he felt like his head was about to blow up. For Hinata, he muttered, chopping off a significant portion of Neji's hair. With wide eyes, Neji withdrew and turned to see Naruto clutching a large portion of his hair. Neji felt his hair cut horribly short, just above his neck, and lifted his hand to the back of his head. Neji spit out, "You will pay for this." Naruto gave Neji a composed glance. "No, you will pay." Naruto screamed. Naruto's hand skillfully deflected Neji's palm as they charged at one another, and his other hand extended to exploit the gap. It approached Naruto's face before he turned and allowed the palm to pass by his cheek. Neji felt himself flung against the hard floor, and his eyes widened as Naruto's other hand took hold of his arm. He rolled frantically in an attempt to get away after barely avoiding Naruto's kick to his face. As he rolled, Naruto charged at him, kicking hard and slamming his foot into Neji's chest. Neji crashed into a tree, choking out blood as he flew. He stood up, deflecting Naruto's kick but not his fist, which struck him in the middle of his face and caused his nose to break with a sickening crack. Neji cupped his nose, a split lip and swollen eye gushing blood. Naruto gave Neji a chilly look before vanishing from view. Even with his Byakugan, Neji spun around, searching wildly. He tried to block out the sight of the blood streaming from his mouth and nose. The ability to turn invisible was a genjutsu that had taken everyone by surprise. They would struggle to find Naruto, with the exception of powerful Chunins, Junins, and of course the Hokage and Anbu squads. Even for the most proficient Hyuga, it would take a few seconds for the Byakugan to notice the chakra outpouring because Naruto was suppressing it. Sarutobi smiled from his chair. He thought, "I could hardly feel him activate a genjutsu, but it's about to get really interesting." Naruto then deactivated the genjutsu, revealing it. With Naruto standing directly behind him, his eyes closed and two fingers raised to his lips, Neji stood in utter shock. Then he started talking. He began, "I am the bone of my sword." Neji spun around and hit Naruto's head with his flying palm. With his leg tripping Neji, Naruto swung around and ducked, pivoting on his left palm. As Naruto backflipped and closed his eyes, he held a scroll that burst and sent smoke into the air, causing Neji to fall. Naruto, holding the fabled Kazama katana, leapt back from the smokescreen. He stared at Neji and went on, "Fire is my blood and steel is my body." With wide eyes, the Hokage and Kazekage leaned forward. "Impossible," the Hokage muttered. Jiraiya was relaxing beside the Hokage when Naruto's opening remarks hit him. "That jutsu," Jiraiya bellowed, looking at the Hokage. The Hokage nodded as he glanced at Jiraiya. Desperately, Neji charged at Naruto, but Naruto retreated, dodging, parrying, and weaving. Neji was launched into the air when Naruto's fist struck his head. Naruto went on, "I have produced more than 1,000 blades." Heishi shuddered. He was reminded of this jutsu. There would be absolutely no chance for Neji. It went on, unknown to death, Naruto's voice. Desperately, Neji flipped up and threw 3 kunai with exploding tags. Rolling to the left, Naruto slid to a halt and returned Neji's gaze. "Nor known to life," Naruto explained. The audience stared in anticipation as Naruto's voice rang high, "have withstood pain to create many weapons." As a last resort, Neji charged once more to halt the jutsu, but without success. A kick sent him flying. His other palm was parried, a knee struck his gut, and his palm widened. As he slammed the katana, sheath and all, into the ground, Naruto muttered, "Yet these hands will hold nothing." With his eyes closed, Naruto knelt, "So as I pray." "Stop." When the Hokage straightened up, everyone gasped. Naruto glanced at the Hokage, and then a smile spread across his face. The Hokage was incredulous. After using his genjutsu, Naruto had used it to try to save chakra and energy. After Naruto lied, the Hokage declared, "Naruto wins, I have no doubt that he will win with that jutsu." Everyone's expectations fell apart. They hoped to witness a fantastic display of jutsu. Neji was enraged, gazing icily at the Hokage. He spat, "I will not lose," and then raised and lowered his arm. Suddenly, 2 Hyuga groups moved. One moved to encircle Hanabi and Heishi. He raised both of his guards, prepared to defend him at any time. Around Hinata and Sakura, another group of 4 people gathered, prepared to murder Hinata at any time. "What the hell is this?" Heishi sprang to his feet, furious. A Hyuga elder smiled and got to his feet, laughing and clapping. "Are you so surprised, Heishi? A majority of us main branch elders have decided to put things into our own hands, to bring the Hyuga back into the glory days. All you have done is held back how powerful the Hyuga are, and we will bring back the days where people used to worship the ground where we stood," proudly declared the Hyuga. The audience's only expression was one of shock. More than they had paid for, they had received. He had long black hair, grim lines around his eyes, and was in his late 50s. He wore the custom white robe that most Hyuga counselors wore, and his nose was slightly crooked, likely from a broken nose. He was ranked highly among the Hyuga elders and wasn't particularly attractive, but he wasn't unattractive either. A man of prestige and authority, he was genuinely dangerous. A formidable foe and a brilliant ally. Heishi turned to face the other council members. While some appeared surprised, the others were smiling because they had been aware of the plan. Heishi turned to Hinata and asked, "What do you want, Takashi?" The older one smiled. "You and your family to resign from the main branch, and to be branded by the cursed birdcage seal. Also, Neji will automatically become a Chunin. You would not want a civil war on your hands, would you, Hokage? Dono?" Takashi grinned. With a look that could kill plants, Naruto fixed Takashi with his gaze. But Takashi had benefited from years of experience, and he appeared to be only marginally impacted. "Ah, Naruto-kun. If you get involved, I will not hesitate to kill your girlfriend," replied Takashi. Naruto's eyes shifted to Hinata, who appeared a little alarmed but straightened her back and put on a confident front when she noticed Naruto staring at her. She was confident that Naruto would always keep her safe. Naruto and the Hokage exchanged a message as they looked at one another. Then Naruto grinned, his voice cutting through the muttering of the throng. According to him, unlimited blade works, the world settings suddenly change. There was a wasteland. Like plateau in Blade. However, the fact that there were innumerable blades embedded in the ground hit everyone who was standing together in the arena. Naruto approached a blade and withdrew it from the earth. They had all been split up. One section contained both nobles and commoners, the next contained ninjas, the next contained his precious people, and the final section contained the Hyuga traders. Calmly, the Kazekage stood by himself. He raised his head. He grinned and said, "Welcome to my world," focusing only on Takeshi. Please," Takeshi said. Naruto snarled as he approached Takeshi and his Hyuga group, saying, "I will not forgive you for threatening those whom I love." Takeshi staggered back with the Hyugas. "I can offer you money, power, position, opportunity, anything that you desire, you can have it," Takeshi screamed. After bending his head, Naruto raised it once more with his Sharingan in motion. "No deal," he grinned and said. After vanishing, Naruto stabbed the Kazekage in the shoulder with his blade. Naruto pulled out the blade and slashed upward for the Kazekage's head as he screamed. The blade caught the Kagekage's hat as he dodged. The figure slid back, the blade barely decapitating his head. Orochimaru glared at Naruto as he stood there. The crowd, which by this point was still backing away, gasped. Orochimaru was the treacherous third Sannin of Konoha. "So, you found out who I am. Aren't you a smart boy, Naruto-kun?" Orochimaru said, grinning painfully. With a faint smirk, Naruto said, "You are always ready, Orochimaru. You barely avoided my killing blow." "Indeed, however there is one thing you do not understand about this jutsu," Orochimaru replied. Naruto gave him a fierce look. It was true that he knew very little, if anything, about jutsu. It had only surfaced a few days prior, and he had been working on it covertly. The outcome of his training and experiments was a number of severely damaged wooden poles. Orochimaru responded, "With this many people, the jutsu will disappear in a matter of seconds." As promised, the jutsu vanished a few seconds later. Naruto was on his knees, panting heavily, and everyone was back where they had been. The Kyuubi had noticed that he was severely depleted of chakra and had pulled him out of the jutsu. He might have perished if he hadn't. Orochimaru gave the signal right away, and the assault started. The civilians were slaughtered by sound ninjas that suddenly emerged from them. They encountered leaf ninjas who fought them. Sarutobi and Orochimaru were surrounded by a barrier erected by Orochimaru's personal bodyguard. There was anarchy. Breathing heavily, Neji had approached Naruto's location. Neji's hand clenched back and then into a fist. This was the individual who caused him to bleed horribly, cut his hair, and broke his nose. Neji was considering killing Naruto right then and there because his body hurt from Naruto's blows. Naruto started by saying, "I understand your pain of losing your parents." Neji took a small step back, startled. "You lost your father and mother, as I have lost mine. However, this does not give you the right to become the self-righteous person you have become. Would your parents be proud of you?" said Naruto, lifting his head. He appeared somewhat normal, albeit a little pale. As a trickle of blood escaped, Neji cupped his nose and said, I am." I see the pain in your eyes. Open yourself to people who want to be your friends, they will guide you. Your cousin Hinata, she is willing to forgive you and become your friend, if you only let her. I would become your friend, if you let me. You do not believe in the destiny bullcrap you spew out. It is a mask, underneath that mask is a lonely and grief-stricken boy, said Naruto. Neji appeared dejected before standing up. Finally, with a tear in his eye, he said, Yui. Ar wheat, you were right. Before rushing off to get himself bandaged, Neji muttered, Whn this is over, oi would loika. Frus to become friends. When this is over, I would like for us to become friends. Before a figure hurried to his side, Naruto gave a small smile. Naruto.kun. Are you okay? Hinata frantically inquired. Whatever the battle was, Naruto turned and gazed into his girlfriend's beautiful eyes. I'm fine, Hinata-chan. I'm just a little tired, my dearest, Naruto said gently as he reached up and stroked her chin. Then Hinata spun around, gazing at a sound ninja who was attempting to ambush them. The male ninja grinned and said, I will make your death quick and painless if you don't struggle, little girl. Prior to using her Byakugan, Hinata's eyes gleamed with assurance. Hinata shouted, I will definitely defeat you. The sand ninjas broke out outside, attacking the walls. A huge three-headed snake that had been summoned headed for the walls. Konoha, however, was ready. After Kunai and Shuriken destroyed the first wave of sand ninjas, a sizable contingent of Anbu and Junins emerged on the walls. A giant frog landed and crushed the three-headed snake's body beneath him. The frog's blade severed one of the snake's heads, and the body vanished in a thick cloud of smoke. Despite being outnumbered, the sound ninjas inside the arena were being massacred and fought valiantly. Even the treacherous Hyuga rose up and fought to protect their house. Then, in a flurry of leaves on the arena floor, came Kakashi and Sasuke. Kakashi glanced around. He said, something I miss. When Sasuke looked back, he saw Hinata fighting a sound ninja, sending the girl flying backwards after the ninja kicked her in the abdomen. Then Naruto showed up beside her, snatching her firmly in his arms as they glided across the floor. Naruto then leapt forward and turned on his foot. Naruto yelled, fly. As Hinata flew in the direction of the ninja, their arms in monkey grip. Fading away with the noises of combat. Sasuke was only able to scowl before turning away as Hinata slid beneath his legs and used a leg sweep and a chakra infused palm to trip him to the ground. He died at once. He was a little envious when Naruto, despite his weariness, grinned broadly at his girlfriend, who returned the smile. They would feel nothing right now because they were on adrenaline, but the pain of killing would return later. After looking up, Sasuke made the decision to enter the battle. He dashed to the wall, climbed it, and rushed into the bleachers. Observing Gaara and his siblings fleeing later in the rounds after they were unable to murder Shikamaru and the other players. Instead of pursuing, the remaining participants continued to assist in defending the civilians. Sasuke, sensing glory, smiled and trailed behind them. He would definitely demonstrate his superior strength to Naruto. Kakashi had already entered the battle and was competing against Maeda Guy, the vivacious Junin who was having a good time fighting and tallying the number of enemies he had defeated. And Kakashi was barely winning. Orochimaru and the Sandaime Hokage finally faced each other upwards, and the purple barrier that surrounded them did so for the last time. Gaara, half transformed, screamed, "Come Sasuke! Mother screams for your blood!" Panting, Sasuke hid behind a big tree trunk. He had minor wounds all over, and blood was dripping onto the branch he was standing on. When he looked outside, he saw Gaara looking around before a black eye peered at him and an evil smile spread across her face. Sasuke leapt as his Shukakufied arm swung, slamming through the trunk as it did so. Gazing intently at Gaara, Sasuke landed above on a different tree's branch. I've run out of chakra. I only have one choice, Sasuke thought. He thus consented to the cursed seal's will. Sasuke felt a surge of power and a sense of life. Sasuke whispered, the Uchiha are the elite, for a reason. Using his left hand to hold his arm's elbow, he dropped his right arm and formed multiple hand seals. Sasuke screamed, Chidori, and fled from the branch. He moved swiftly, barely ducking to avoid the first arm swing. With victory in his eyes, he leapt into the air and approached Gaara. Then his chakra stopped working. What? After Sasuke's eyes widened, Gaara's arm struck him forcefully, sending him crashing into a distant tree trunk. Knowing that he had a fractured arm and at least 2 broken ribs, Sasuke choked out blood. Everything was a huge blur, and he could hardly see anything. Sasuke muttered, "Kuso," before collapsing, unconscious. "Naruto. Hinata. Go after Sasuke," was Kakashi's shout as he leapt down to the two. The three of them chased after them, calling forth Pakun, while Kakashi remained to assist in defending the populace. Sound and Sand were losing the battle. A number of Sound and Sand nin who had dropped their disguises had been killed immediately after intelligence reported an attack. In order to prevent the invading force from reaching Konoha, Anbu was out in full force. Outside of Konohagakure, Sound nin were preparing a summon to break through the Great Walls. As soon as they started the summoning ritual, they were massacred, sending Hunter.nin flying through. Sound nin and Sand nin launched fierce attacks on the walls, but they were repulsed with significant losses. Hero, the Sound nin, gazed at the massive walls and the massive corpses that were resting next to them. Nin ran up with a sound. The Sound nin declared, "We cannot break through the walls to help Lord Orochimaru." Hero saw the Hunter.nin who had killed his summoners swiftly climb the wall and join the group of forces at the top. He also cursed. "Charge!" he exclaimed. The ninjas of Sound and Sand then charged in the direction of the wall. Only a few defenders were hurt or killed as the attacker was ruthlessly defeated by the defenders using shuriken, kunai, and jutsu. With the purple shield barrier swiftly established by Sound 4, Orochimaru stood facing the Sandaime Hokage. Outside, an Anbu team stood helpless after making every effort to contact the Hokage. The Sandaime Hokage muttered, "Orochimaru, you will die here. My personal bodyguards have this place surrounded. You have no help here," Orochimaru replied. With clenched teeth, the Sandaime Hokage called forth his cherished monkey. Enma said, "I am here to serve you." Prior to Orochimaru looked at the wound from his katana. He was unable to feel his left arm because the foolish brat had severed the nerves and sliced through the tendons. The professor inquired, "Is your arm bothering you?" Orochimaru gave him a confident smile. Orochimaru grinned and said, "You are old sensei. Your ways are over. My ways are now." The Sandaime Hokage retorted, "And you underestimate your old sensei. You assumed I did not have help." Orochimaru's expression abruptly changed to one of horror and shock, and as Jiraiya's Rasengan ripped through his right arm, his only functional arm, he let out a scream. Jiraiya landed next to the professor, clutching his jaw where the foot had struck it, after Orochimaru kicked him away with a backheel. Orochimaru screamed, "You hid here, Jiraiya. You coward," out loud. Jiraiya gave him a sardonic glance, but his eyes were obviously filled with rage. There was the lethal Sannin in place of the pervert. "You're still the same. Managing to dodge that death. Strike. You were always the best of us three. But now you must die," came Jiraiya's measured response. However, the barrier was later removed by the Sound 4, and Kabuto showed up beside Orochimaru. Standing outside, the Anbu members charge in. As the Sound 4 touched down next to Orochimaru, Kabuto declared, "The battle is lost." Anger twisted Orochimaru's face, and he swung his chakra at the Anbu team. The Sound 4 kicked them away after they paused briefly at this attack. Before the Sound 4 hurled poisonous gas and smoke bombs covered in chakra onto the roof and fled, Orochimaru spit out, "This is not over." On the roof, the Sandaime and the Sannin gazed at the ninjas who were still engaged in combat. A leaf ninja stopped a sand ninja that was running to the right. After making a wild swing with his kunai, he fled in the opposite direction. His head snapped back as Guy's foot met him halfway. He yelled, 22, with a thumbs up. Kakashi started to perspire. "Damn it, beaten," he thought. Hiruzen, the Sarutobi, looked at Jiraiya. "I'm kind of glad I didn't have to fight him. I'm too old for this, and I used all my chakra yesterday training my grandson," said Hiruzen. Jiraiya smiled at Hokage, his beloved. "I never thought you would say you were old. If you got worn out training your grandson, I'm glad you convinced me to stay around," Jiraiya replied. The Hokage third gave a snort. "These old bones of mine could still give you a run for your money, Jiraiya-chan, and probably beat you back to your mummy," said the Hokage. They had won the Battle of Konoha, with only a small number of their own lives lost. They had defeated the invasion of Sound and Sand. Simultaneously with the arena attack, a number of ninjas tried to call forth a huge three-headed snake. They were all killed by a group of Anbu assassins before they could complete it. As a result, Konoha had the advantage with the wall since the Sound and Sand could not penetrate it. Numerous Sound and Sand ninjas perished before they could even reach the walls. Gaara gleefully laughed. The Uchiha would perish. Shukaku started to gleefully sing about the deliciousness of red blood in his mind. Mother will be fulfilled, he exclaimed with joy. Then, as kunai with explosive tags were flung at him, Gaara lifted his arm. He lifted his arm to protect his face from the kunai, which exploded instantly. As he lowered his arm, he saw Hinata and Naruto standing there, with a Naruto clone removing Sasuke. Naruto's clone transported him to a location far from the destructive Shukaku after Sasuke was vanquished. Gaara cried out, "Come Uchiha! Your blood shall quench my thirst." Naruto looked at Hinata, who gave him a confident nod. Naruto stood there, getting ready to move swiftly, then grimacing in agony as Hinata took off to the left. What the hell? Naruto thought. The blade works indefinitely. It severely strains the coils of your chakras and body. Fighting Gaara won't help you defeat him, the Kyuubi declared. How is your chakra doing? Naruto inquired. As it is, your chakra coils are under stress. Giving you chakra would probably cause an internal explosion that would be lethal, if not fatal. It is not possible to use my chakra, the Kyuubi retorted. Naruto cursed. He looked at Hinata, and she looked back at him. After giving her a nod, Naruto leapt to his right and threw a kunai. He roared in anticipation as Gaara's gaze fell upon him. Naruto was standing on a tree branch when his demonic arm struck it. Gaara's big arm blocked Naruto's next volley of kunai, which he had thrown at her eye. Naruto gritted his teeth in agony and pushed off once more, this time with a wave of shuriken. Hinata swiftly approached Gaara's head as Naruto offered a distraction. Shukaku would return to his body if she could hit his chakra coils. She observed Naruto leaping from tree to tree and diverting his attention with a variety of projectiles. Then Hinata noticed a gap. With his back turned, she jumped onto his back and pumped chakra into her feet. She made a determined, swift upward motion. Hinata! Naruto cried out. Then Hinata realized her error when she was slammed into a tree by an arm that was tightly gripping and squeezing her. The arm began to squeeze, and Hinata let out a cry of pain. Naruto shouted, "Hinata!" once more before turning to face Gaara. Then, with a sharp cough and blood streaming from his mouth, Naruto rolled over in agony. Gaara's hungry eyes shone brightly. Gaara's other arm encircled Naruto's ankles as he stood up straight, slamming him through a tree trunk. Naruto was slammed into the trunk and was helpless, like a limp doll. Gaara then gave him a downward joyride and forcefully slammed him into the ground. The majority of the damage was absorbed by Naruto's body because he was able to surround it with a chakra shield. He was tired, though. When Hinata saw Naruto's situation, she screamed at his lifeless body. "Naruto!" Gaara looked in her direction. "Having fun, aren't you?" Gaara then slammed Naruto's limp body with her other arm. A cry of agony. With tears in her eyes, Hinata muttered, "Stop." Gaara smiled. Once more, his arm slammed into Naruto. One more cry of agony. "Stop." Hinata uttered. With a cry of "Stop," Hinata's chakra burst from each tenketsu, releasing her. Gaara turned to look at her. Byakugan activated, she stood emotionless with her hair pulled back from her face. Her gorgeous face was set in a grim, determined expression as she raised it. Gaara smiled. He yelled, "Come," and charged at her. Hinata hurried up the tree trunk she was standing on. The tree started to topple over as Gaara ran, her arm slamming into the trunk just below her. Hinata kept running before pushing away and throwing a wave of kunai with explosive tags at Gaara while spinning in the air. The kunai embedded itself in Gaara's body, causing his arms to move to a cross. Then they left. Gaara swung wildly at Hinata and let out a cry of rage. He roared in rage as it just missed. With determined eyes, Hinata landed on a branch. Then she felt Gaara's arm descend on her. Letting his hand go, she leapt forward and started the perilous ascent up his arm. Before attempting to flick her upwards with his attached arm, Gaara's other arm came sailing overhead as she rolled. As his arm rose at the proper angle, Hinata held on with her feet and released her grip, allowing momentum to carry her forward. With her arm poised to send chakra into Gaara's head, she soared through the air. Gaara's tail slammed into her while she was so close. With a cry, she took off and crashed into a tree trunk with force. She screamed in agony as she sank into the tree trunk, causing the tree to tremble. Just as Gaara's fist slammed where her body would be, she barely managed to pull herself out and fell. Staring at the half Shukaku Ed Gaara, she fell to the ground. The hysterical words, "Time to die," came out of Gaara. He put his hands together and muttered, "Forced sleep no jutsu." Gaara instantly changed into a full Shukaku, who joyfully cackled. He yelled, "I'm free," before its eyes fixed on Hinata, who was panting on the ground. As he charged at her, Shukaku yelled, "I yearn for your blood." After avoiding the tail's swing, Hinata threw multiple kunai. Hinata sprinted, hiding behind a tree trunk and rolling close to it. As Shukaku picked up the tree, she rolled away. Catch! When Shukaku threw the tree, the ground around Hinata's location was slammed hard. After being flung back, Hinata's body slid 30 meters before colliding with a tree. Hinata dismissed the despair with a shake of her head. "No. Naruto-kun believes in me. I believe in myself," she yelled. After charging at Shukaku, Hinata slid beneath his legs and inserted a kunai, a bundle of explosive notes, into his buttocks. Pulling out 2 kunai as she slid, she cut Shukaku's crotch and threw them into the kunai that had explosive notes already stuck in his buttocks. Shukaku turned and chuckled when he saw Hinata. As the explosive tags detonated, Shukaku abruptly stopped and screamed. Its tail and both arms moved in the direction of its buttocks. Hinata saw her opportunity. She pumped as much chakra as she could into her legs and pushed off it as she ran toward the closest tree trunk, where Gaara was sleeping, and made her way to Shukaku's face. She reached halfway but began to slow down, much to her dismay. A smile spread across Shukaku's twisted face of pain. Then she sensed him. Bloody and worn out, Naruto clutched her hand in his white clothes, which were torn and turned black and brown with the dirt. Before he lifted her back up, she caught a glimpse of Naruto's smirk. "Go," he muttered as he collapsed back to the floor. With the extra momentum, Hinata flew, and Shukaku's left arm just missed them. Hinata poured as much chakra into her hand as she could and slammed a huge slap across Gaara's face. "Asshole!" she yelled angrily. As Shukaku drained back into Gaara's body, Hinata smiled slightly and Gaara's eyes opened in surprise. The protest came softly, "No." Hinata plummeted down, worn out. Physically at the edge of her pain threshold, she battled through her previous physical fatigue to defeat him after putting up a fierce fight against the invading ninjas. She was completely exhausted and had no more energy. She heard a cry of, "Hinata," and felt herself fall hard into Naruto's arms. Naruto was too worn out to support her when she fell on top of him. Hinata raised her head to face Naruto, who had a weary yet pleased expression on his face. He muttered, "You did great, Hinata-chan." She moved her head closer to Naruto's and whispered, "I won." Naruto closed his eyes in anticipation, knowing what was about to happen. When he heard a sigh, Hinata fell asleep and sagged to the side. Naruto turned to Gaara's limp form after letting out a small groan of disappointment. Gaara questioned, "How was she so strong?" "Love, she loves me, and she fights for those she finds precious to her," replied Naruto. "You can find strength from fighting for others," replied Gaara. Naruto grinned. "Yes, your friends are your precious people. I hope one day you will learn this lesson, Gaara, that you can only become truly strong when you fight for whom you hold precious," stated Naruto. Gaara gave him a look. Gaara remarked, "I will keep these words in mind. Uchiha Naruto." Beside them, his siblings touched down. They looked at Hinata and Naruto. Gaara said, "Leave them. Let us go, please." Despite their shocked expressions, Temari and Kankuro nodded. Temari said, "Let's go, Gaara," and lifted him out of the clearing. Hinata was sound asleep when Naruto sagged back. He grinned before embracing her and falling asleep right away. When Kakashi and a few other people arrived an hour later, they were greeted with a smile upon seeing Naruto and Hinata snuggled together, sound asleep. Earlier, Sasuke had been taken to the hospital after being discovered with broken ribs. The sand and sound invasion had a positive outcome. Reports of ninjas and civilian casualties were minimal. The sand followed sound ninja, who took the brunt of the losses. The village hidden in the sand pleaded for pity after losing their cage. With severe consequences, Hiruzen, a man of peace, was accepted. Then it was time for the funeral. Many ninjas were cooped up in the hospital and did not attend. While lying in their beds, Naruto, Hinata, and Sasuke observed the pouring rain. They didn't say much because that would have to wait for a better day. Many would lament the loss of loved ones, but very few would cry. After a passionate speech by the Hokage, it was over. The Sandaime Hokage was grinning at them as they stood on the Hokage Tower's balcony. Days had passed since the attack, and the reconstruction was complete. Sarutobi made the decision to announce the results of the Chunin exams, or his own selection of the candidates for promotion. Facing the Hokage, a line of Konoha genins who had taken the Chunin exams formed. People flocked to the streets below to watch the procession. Jiraiya was in the center of 4 Anbu captains who were standing behind the Hokage. The day was bright and clear, and birds were soaring overhead. Despite the slight breeze, nobody spoke as they watched the procession. You have all represented Konohagakure well, and although most of you did not make Chunin, you have fought well and hard in defending Konoha. And for that, we acknowledge you, the Hokage said. The audience applauded and cheered. For silence, the Hokage held up his hand. The atmosphere was enhanced by the slight increase in wind, which caused clothing to ruffle and trees to rustle. The Hokage said, I will now present the recipients to those who have joined our ranks as Chunin. Speculating about who would and wouldn't make it, people watched. There were rumors about who would advance or how many would be promoted. While holding hands, Naruto and Hinata exchanged a smile. Hinata winked back when Naruto gave her a playful shove. Naruto claimed that wearing all white would have made him stand out too much as a ninja, so he had gone back to his previous appearance. They were proud of each other and themselves, even if they didn't get promoted. They all turned to face the Hokage when he coughed, bringing them all back to the present. For his fine display of leadership on the battlefield, and also through his knowledge and skill during his participation of the exams, Nara Shikamaru is awarded a Chunin vest, stated the Sandaime Hokage. Shikamaru moaned as there was cheering and applause. His father moaned from the floor as well, and their tearful mother sobbed as she expressed her pride in her son. How troublesome, was mumbled by both male Naras as Shikamaru walked toward the Hokage, dragging his feet despite his smile. He accepted the Chunin vest, put it on, and waved haltingly at the throng. Then he made his way back to the queue. The next participant is awarded a Chunin vest for her efforts on the battlefield to defend Konohagakure, and with the aid of a fellow Leaf Shinobi to defeat Sabaku no Gaara when he was a great threat to Konoha. The recipient of the Chunin vest, Hyuga Hinata, stated the Hokage. As a very flushed and red Hinata stepped forward to accept her Chunin vest, there was cheering once more. Naruto smiled and gave his girlfriend a hearty cheer. She bowed to the Hokage and accepted her Chunin vest, blushing. She also waved hesitantly as she walked back, then gave Naruto a radiant smile. Naruto just grinned. Finally, the last participant is awarded a Chunin vest, not only for his skill shown during the Chunin exams, but his attack to severely cripple Orochimaru, a huge threat to our village and also aiding Hyuga Hinata in the defeat of Sabaku no Gaara. The recipient of the Chunin vest, Uchiha Naruto, was named the Hokage. The ninjas cheered enthusiastically, and the civilians gave a fair amount of applause. They were gradually coming to terms with the fact that Naruto was no longer the demon brat. They'd have to be more tolerant of him because he was also Uchiha. Naruto now had a lot of power because he was one of the two remaining Uchiha in Konoha. With the vest in hand, Naruto strode forward and smiled at the elderly Hokage, who returned the smile. Hinata clapped joyfully behind him, her face lit up with a smile. A shout of, "Oi brat! Good job!" occurred. When Naruto looked up, he saw Zabuza smiling and Haku beside him. Despite wearing a Konoha Hite dot around his forehead, Zabuza had the same appearance. When Haku and he visited the Sound and Sand ninjas in the hospital, Naruto claimed to have enjoyed the good fight with them and to have caught a glimpse of him on the battlefield. The Hokage grinned as Naruto made his way back to the line. "That is all. Congratulate your newest Chunins," he yelled. They all applauded, and Naruto and Hinata grinned at each other. However, Uchiha Sasuke, a genin who hadn't bothered to attend the event, was absent. Sasuke detested Naruto and Hinata for robbing him of his glory, and he was aware that he would not be given a Chunin vest. He observed from a distance while sitting on a rooftop. He therefore missed the news that Naruto was Uchiha. Before he vanished to ruminate, he sat there in lonely silence. For the final time, Team 7 got back together. Kakashi ruffled the heads of Hinata and Naruto while grinning. Kakashi turned his eye into an upside-down U and said, "You both did very well, I am very proud of you." Both Hinata and Naruto smiled. Sakura appeared dejected, but Kakashi touched her shoulder. "Sakura, this was a learning experience for you. You now know how hard you have to work to make Chunin, but I'm sure you'll get there," replied Kakashi. Hinata approached Sakura after she smiled. Happily, Hinata declared, "We'll always be Team 7. Sakura gave a pitiful smile. "Many thanks," she said. "This calls for a celebration. Since Naruto and Hinata will be much more busy in the future, this will be one of the few times we can gather together," stated Kakashi. Naruto gave a nod. Naruto replied, "Yeah, and you're paying." Kakashi began to perspire. "No ramen," Kakashi stipulated. Members nodded and congratulated Hinata as she entered the Hyuga complex. She nodded to them and smiled back. Neji was blocking her path and staring at her when she stopped. Neji. Hinata started. I must ask for your pardon, Hinata. Sama, Neji said, collapsing to a bow on the hardwood floor. Hinata's eyes grew wide with shock and surprise. She hurried to his side and stepped forward. Hinata said, Neji.ni.san, what has gotten into you? I betrayed you. And Uncle Heishi, I betrayed you all, grieved Neji. It's okay. I forgive you. We all make mistakes, and I'm sure you'll have much suffering to come before you will be forgiven by the main branch family, replied Hinata. Neji gave her a stupid nod before turning to face her. Thank you for your forgiveness, Hinata. Sama. I will accept my punishment, Neji said, bowing to her before leaving. Neji. Hinata exclaimed. He turned with a perplexed expression. Hinata said, never. Don't bow to me or call me Sama. Neji grinned. As you wish, he said, turning to leave. A servant approached Hinata with a small bob as she was making her way down the hall to her room. The female servant hurriedly said, your father wants to see you in his study, Hinata. Sama. With a nod and a smile, Hinata headed for the study. She wondered what her father wanted, and she approached other Hyuga members in the hallways to greet them and offer congratulations. Knowing that her father might normally be engaged in a task requiring a great deal of focus, she approached the door and knocked softly. Come in, her father said. She opened the door and shut it after herself. Then she walked over to his desk and settled herself on a cushion. Pen and paper at work, her father was working on a document. He set them aside and grinned at her. Hi, she said, my daughter, you have my utmost admiration. After blinking in surprise, Hinata returned the smile. She wasn't going to question it now, but she hadn't seen this side of her father in years. Thank you, father, she said with joy. I have to apologize, Hinata, for how I have treated you after your mother's death. Many circumstances have happened, and I didn't realize how badly I was treating you. Hinata, can you forgive this foolish and old man? Heishi candidly asked her. With a smile, Hinata got to her feet. Her father got up and embraced her as she walked around the table. She said, Papa, there's nothing to forgive. With a smile, Heishi embraced her. When I saw you up there on that balcony receiving that Chunin vest, I was so proud of you. Never doubt that anymore, my dear daughter, replied Heishi. Hinata whispered, I won't, father. Outside, Hanabi used her Baikugan to look inward before scowling jealously and walking away. Jiraiya and the Hokage sat in the office. Jiraiya, we must protect Naruto. We know that Danzo is aware of his heritage now, and will stop at nothing to make him a weapon, replied Hiruzen. Jiraiya paced around, frowning. We cannot hide him from Danzo. There's no place we can hide him effectively, and leaving him out in the open will not work. My networks here say that Danzo is entrenched in the Anbu, and in various other places. He wields a lot of power and influence, Jiraiya stated. Then Hiruzen grinned and clapped his hands. Jiraiya paused and turned to face Hiruzen. As Hiruzen put it, we put him in the Anbu. Anbu? Didn't I just say that Danzo has spies entrenched in the Anbu? Replied Jiraiya. Yes, but we can keep him a secret. You know that only the captains and the commander know the identities of their Anbu members. The commander I know and trust. He has always been loyal and brought to my attention Danzo and his root faction. The captain, we'll put him with someone we know isn't in Danzo's faction nor his team. Danzo will not know the better, as the porcelain mask will hide him, Hiruzen replied. Jiraiya nodded his head and scowled. However, Jiraiya stated, I do have one request though. What's that? Hiruzen inquired. A smile that suggested Jiraiya was working on something appeared on her face. Hiruzen gave him a scowl. He said, let me train the boy. It made sense to Hiruzen, who nodded in agreement. So you are going to teach Minato's legacy then? You are sure of this? Replied Hiruzen. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and this is one way of repaying them, said Jiraiya. We have an agreement then, Jiraiya, but one question remains to be answered, Hiruzen replied. And what would that be, Almighty Hokage? Jiraiya inquired, looking interestedly. How would you feel to be Hokage? Birds fled in fear as the Hokage tower erupted in a, what, shout. Uchiha Naruto? The figure in the long black robe inquired. Naruto identified him as the commander with the unique pattern, and markings on his mask indicated that he was a high-ranking Anbu. Naruto turned, his face and body smeared with dirt and dripping sweat from his workout. Hi, Naruto said. After looking around, the Anbu figure handed him a scroll. Please read this as soon as you can, in a private area. I will be in contact with you soon, said the member of the Anbu. The Anbu member vanished as Naruto nodded. He went to his belongings and stuffed them into his backpack before using a towel to wipe away the perspiration. He took a deep breath and walked slowly back to Konoha, stopping briefly to eat 20 bowls of ramen. Naruto frowned as he gazed at the scroll. To confirm its contents, it did, however, bear the official seal of the Hokage. I wonder what it is, Naruto pondered, because it was also given by an Anbu member. The Kyuubi said, "Just open the damn thing." Naruto retorted, "I was getting to it, furball." Naruto opened it. To Naruto Uchiha, as soon as you have finished reading this scroll, you must destroy it. Never, ever keep this scroll anywhere because it could jeopardize Konoha as a whole. When you feel you are at least 15, you are formally invited to join the ranks of Anbu on probation, where you will receive instruction and training from Anbu instructors before taking an exam. You will become a full member of Anbu and be eligible to wear the porcelain mask if you pass the Anbu exam. Meet an emissary atop the Hokage monument at precisely midnight tonight if you accept this offer. You won't be contacted again if you say no once more. You need to destroy this document as soon as you're done. This scroll has a unique seal that will burn without leaving any residue if a small amount of chakra is added. We cannot allow outsiders to compromise the Anbu, so if you do not destroy this document, you will be dealt with. When Naruto saw the Hokages and the Anbu head commander's handwritten signatures, his eyes widened. Then Naruto smiled. I intend to become an Anbu, he pondered. When Naruto pumped chakra into the scroll, it broke apart, and he smiled broadly. He thought, I'll look so badass wearing a porcelain mask. The Hokage's office doors were opened by the Anbu commander. They showed up, nodded, and left, gesturing for the Anbu guards who were hidden to vanish. They were only supposed to leave the Hokage in extremely secretive situations. Hiruzen gestured to the Anbu commander while casting 2 jutsus that blocked sight and sound from the office. Itachi-kun, you can now remove your mask, the Hokage said. The Uchiha traitor smiled at them as the figure lifted the mask. He uttered the words, Hokage, Sama, Jiraiya, Sama. Hiruzen inquired, was the letter delivered? Itachi said, hi, I think he will accept, with a small smile on his face as he considered Naruto's happy expression. Excellent. It has been some time since you have been in Konoha. Although as Anbu commander, sometimes to be rarely seen is a good thing, makes people think you are watching. Is Kisame harder to get by nowadays? Replied Jiraiya. Indeed, his surveillance over me has increased. He may suspect a bit, but not much from what I see. We have been observing Naruto for some time. Kisame wishes to move quickly against him. As for Zetsu, he appears now and then, but I know he is afar off helping the other Akatsuki members to prepare, stated Itachi. I still find it ironic, one of the most hated figures in Konohagakure history, the Anbu commander, said Jiraiya. Itachi gave Jiraiya a smile. And you have yourself a little apprentice in Naruto. He already is a fine ninja, stated Itachi. Indeed he is, I was hoping at some point you could pop by and help me when I take him on a training trip, replied Jiraiya. Indeed. I will certainly try to slip Akatsuki's guards. You wish for him to surpass his father and mother then? Replied Itachi. Jiraiya answered, yes, I owe it to Minato and Kushina. And I hear you are retiring from Hokage? Become an old man now, Itachi chuckled. Hiruzen smiled. Despite everything that had happened to him, Itachi remained faithful to Konoha. I just want to sit back and relax, and take care of my grandchildren, replied Hiruzen. I've had enough of war and paperwork. Konohamaru wants to become a great ninja. Retirement will allow me to help him improve by spending time with him. Then we shall find Tsunade then? Should I dispatch my Anbu teams? Replied Itachi. No, she will come to us, Hiruzen said, with a mischievous gleam in his eye. The mischievous expression in the Hokage's eyes made Jiraiya and Itachi smile. With that expression in their Hokage's eyes, they knew at once that she would return. Money and alcohol were irresistible to Tsunade, the famous sucker, especially if the alcohol was inexpensive. As a result, a fantastic festival with enormous gambling jackpots and inexpensive sake was scheduled to take place in Konoha in 3 days. The public would interpret the celebration as honoring the deceased and celebrating a significant victory, even though it was actually an elaborate hoax intended to entice Senju Tsunade back to Konoha. And they would leap when Tsunade returned. The Gondame Hokage would be her successor. Thus began the implementation of the Hokage and Jiraiya's plan. Gaki! Exclaimed Jiraiya. Before one Naruto emerged, 200 turned toward Jiraiya. Naruto's response was, Arrow. Sennin, don't call me that, Jiraiya yelled. Arrow. Sennin, was chanted by the whole Naruto ensemble. Anyway, you'll be coming with me on a mission, to find the great Senju Tsunade, one of the 3 Sannin, Jiraiya replied. Naruto let out a sigh. Naruto mumbled to himself, why must I be stuck with a pervert? Before he became serious, Jiraiya started to perspire. Naruto. Jiraiya said. Naruto turned to face him with icy steel eyes and a serious expression as well. Don't use unlimited blade works, only as a last resort, Jiraiya said. Naruto gave a nod of agreement. I read the scroll that my mother gave me. I didn't know how much chakra it really took, nor the strain it puts on my body. I understand now, I will only use it as a last resort, stated Naruto. Jiraiya nodded, pleased that he had heeded his counsel. He would surpass his father and become a formidable ninja who could change the outcome of any conflict if he could keep giving the boy wise counsel and assist him in utilizing his drive to work hard. I'm surprised you even learnt the move, it was hard for your mother to even create, even with help from your father, Jiraiya replied. Naruto smiled. What can I say, I have good genes, and a lot of help, replied Naruto. Jiraiya chuckled. There was a lot of Minato in him, he thought. Given that Minato was always liked by the women, Jiraiya thought, he'll be a lady killer in the future. Jiraiya questioned, so Naruto, do you know the Rasengan? Naruto gave a head nod. Jiraiya looked at him in complete shock. Jiraiya questioned, how the crap do you know the Rasengan? After giving him a dumbfounded look, Naruto gestured to his stomach. Jiraiya turned white. Jiraiya questioned, that furball taught you the Rasengan? No, I taught myself didn't I, Naruto said ominously. Jiraiya, who was clearly getting happier, requested to see the scroll. He questioned, do you know how it works? Roughly, started Naruto. The scrolls only give out techniques, knowledge and advice when it feels I am ready to handle it. I haven't looked at it recently however. I think my mother's scroll only gave me unlimited blade works because it was to help me learn, to teach me a lesson. I really shouldn't have used it at all, but perhaps Kami has had a say in it, to prevent a larger amount of damage to Konoha by having me injure Orochimaru with it, stated Naruto. Jiraiya scowled and then shrugged. I suppose that makes sense, but anyway. I'll show you the Rasengan, Jiraiya replied. A blue ball of chakra swirled around Jiraiya's hand as he raised it. He declared, this is the Rasengan, and then used it to destroy a nearby tree. Naruto murmured ominously, I already know that. Jiraiya gave a shrug. Jiraiya frowned and said, I'll teach you something else, but it'll be much easier for you to master with the Sharingan. I won't use it. Sharingan is perfect for fights, but not for training, because when you rely on just your Sharingan to learn jutsu, you never get a feel for it. You don't realize just how much chakra it takes, or how much chakra to use to make it bigger or smaller. Plus, it'll increase my already large chakra reserves, laughed Naruto. Smart kid, Naruto remarked, good genes, as I mentioned. Jiraiya smiled. In addition to the fact that he had a lot of potential, he was beginning to like this kid more and more. He would make the child a skilled ninja if he could have him for 2 years. However, the Hokage had already agreed that he would have him for 2 years. Jiraiya inquired, how is your chakra control then? I got Hyuga Haishi Sama to teach me advanced chakra control techniques, stated Naruto. Jiraiya's eyebrows went up in genuine surprise. Alright, the Gaki had Haishi teach him. Jiraiya remarked, it's difficult to even move the man when he's set on something. You may have large stores of chakra, but chakra control is always important. Fighting for hours with ninjutsu is something very few people can do, but by maximizing your efficiency with your chakra, you can become twice as deadly. An extra fireball jutsu in your chakra stores from being able to reduce the amount of wastage from your chakra is better than none at all, Jiraiya said. Naruto consented, understanding that Jiraiya was a fountain of knowledge and counsel when taken seriously. When he was serious, and that was very seldom. Naruto grinned wryly and remarked, Haishi Sama taught me that as well, although his explanation was much more sophisticated. Jiraiya returned the smile. Haishi always was one for explaining things in a higher class manner. His act doesn't fool me though, Jiraiya replied. Naruto remarked, I'm not fooled by his act either. MMHHH, can I use you and your girlfriend as research? Arrow. Sennin, I vowed never to return. I got out of there a long time ago. I severed my relationship and left with my niece. Even though I vowed in my heart never to go back, it is calling to me now. I drink and gamble to get away from my past because I can't handle it. I dare not confront it. I have continued to run as a result. However, I am returning because I am unable to escape the demons of my past. I keep running, but it seems like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm Senju Tsunade, and I long for the suffering and loss of more than 50 years. Even though I don't want to return, the money is beckoning. On training ground 51, there were two figures. Another stood back, observing, while the first stood in the middle of this expansive training area. Hinata stood quietly, her fingers intertwined in a focused tangle. She spun 10 Fuma Shuriken around herself, and Naruto, who was nearby, proudly observed. In the days that he had taught her, she had advanced so far, starting with 1 Shuriken and working her way up to 10. After just 1 week of practice, she was now 10. Naruto thought, Hinata-chan, you can do it. After working diligently together, Naruto taught Hinata how to use his Fuma Shuriken move against Kiba during the tests. As Hinata focused, sweat trickled down her brow. Since ninja wire would actually need to pass through the body in order to rotate in a sphere, this move was theoretically impossible. But Naruto had gotten around it by creating a unique ninja wire that, when chakra was pumped into it, transformed into pure chakra and could travel through the body unharmed. Hinata's shuriken nicked her arm, causing her to hiss in agony. Naruto yelled, "Hinata, concentrate!" With a determined grit of her teeth, Hinata nodded. She was surrounded by a protective sphere of flying death as the shuriken grew faster and faster. By this point, Hinata's fingers were beginning to blur, and she lost control. Shuriken lost control of the wire, causing the projectiles to fly in all directions. A shuriken threatened to sever Naruto's head, so he ducked beneath it. Hinata hurried to meet him. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry, said Hinata, looking concerned. Putting a hand through his hair, Naruto stood up. Naruto grinned and said, almost Hinata-chan, you're almost there. Hinata's anxious look gave way to a disappointed one. She looked disappointedly at the ground and muttered, I'm sorry I couldn't do it. Gazing at her, Naruto raised her chin. He grinned and remarked, Hinata-chan, you've come a long way. Believe me, you're amazing. After blushing, Hinata left with Naruto to gather the strewn. About shuriken. Naruto declined Hinata's offer of the 10 Fuma Shuriken. Hinata-chan, I want you to try again, but this time I'll be in front of you, said Naruto. Hinata opened her eyes wide. She exclaimed, what? You'll get hurt. Naruto gave a headshake. Naruto confidently remarked, I trust you, Hinata, and I know you can do this. I won't get hurt. Hinata nodded after glancing down at the shuriken. Standing just a few inches away, Naruto gazed directly into her eyes. After closing her eyes, she threw up the shuriken and immediately spun away with it. Her fingers sensed the tautness of the wire as the shuriken responded. The shuriken sphere accelerated as she whirled them. They were encircled by the shuriken, which was their own shield. Naruto grinned at Hinata when she opened her eyes. She smiled brightly in return. Naruto lifted her chin and whispered, you did it. Using one hand, he cupped her left cheek and gradually closed the distance. His intentions caused Hinata's eyes to widen. She leaned slowly in his direction. They moved slowly, gradually closing the distance between them. Her breath touched Naruto's face. She could sense the calm, peaceful aura he exuded surrounding her. Naruto didn't even flinch when the shuriken whizzed past them, circling near his head. With the sphere shielding them from everything, there was nothing but them. Their mouths were nearly in contact. Gaki. They were just millimeters away from making contact when they jerked back in surprise. Hinata's face flushed, and she abruptly halted the rotation. Naruto first appeared irritated before turning to face a smiling Jiraiya. Naruto yelled, what? With fury. Jiraiya gave him a smile. Jiraiya raised his eyebrows and said, oh, hello Hinata-chan. I see you two are getting rather busy. Hinata looked shyly at the ground as her face flushed bright red. When Jiraiya lifted his notebook with a smug smile and saw a couple who looked a lot like them in a tornado, ready to kiss, Naruto twitched. Before his Sharingan activated, Naruto said, arrow. Senin. Slowly. I am going to kill you, he said. Before taking off with Naruto right behind him, Jiraiya started to perspire. Over the horizon, Hinata observed the dust clouds dissipate. She scowled with dismay. Then she muttered, damn it. Interrupted again, she reflected. Her eyes widened as the seriousness of the situation struck. She recalled that Jiraiya was a writer at Smut who was regarded as a genius. In a panic, she fled after them, running faster than any Hyuga had ever run. As Hinata burned his research, Jiraiya gazed at her. Jiraiya exclaimed, you didn't need to, my research. You interrupted us at a very important time. What is it? Said Naruto. Jiraiya gave them a knowing smile. Jiraiya smirked and said, What? Wanting to know your dearest Hinata's lips? You sly dog you. Hinata blushed, and Naruto's cheeks turned a little redder. What is it? Naruto emphasized. Jiraiya waved before vanishing in a cloud of smoke, saying, As you know, the festival is tomorrow. Be ready at 9 a.m., we're going Hokage hunting. Stupid. Blah. Naruto muttered as he kicked the floor. Then Naruto halted and turned to face Hinata, who gave him a curious look. Naruto threw caution to the wind and shrugged. With a deliberate gait, he approached Hinata and put his right arm around her lower back. With a hint of surprise in her voice, Hinata said, Naruto-kun? Naruto's head tipped down as he slowly leaned forward. When Hinata realized what he was doing, she approached him cautiously. No matter what, they thought resolutely. Above them a voice said, Cute. They both blushed as they jumped back in surprise. When they looked up, they saw Kakashi reading a book while sitting on a nearby roof's balcony. Hinata smiled and said, Kakashi. Sensei? Kakashi inquired, Yo. How are both of my little chunin going? Not bad, Kakashi. Sensei, what's going to happen with Sakura as she's the only one who didn't pass? Stated Naruto. Kakashi gave them a smile. Sakura has shown brilliant potential in becoming a medic nin. I've diverted her to the hospital for training, as I know nothing about healing techniques, Kakashi grumbled. Hinata grinned. That's good for Sakura-san. I'm glad she is able to find something she's good at, replied Hinata. I've heard that you yourself are quite the little medic nin now, replied Kakashi. The compliment made Hinata smile. Very simple stuff. Herbal cream, disinfection of wounds, and very minor cuts, replied Hinata. Impressed, Kakashi nodded and got to his feet. Kakashi waved and then vanished in a whirl of leaves, saying, Well, I have a mission with Zabuza and Haku. I'll see you around. Both Hinata and Naruto sighed as they exchanged glances. Once more, the moment had been lost. Hinata noticed that it was 4 p.m. when she glanced at a nearby clock. I've got to go. I have family training with father and Hanabi. Chan, said Hinata. Naruto nodded and gave her a tender handshake. After giving him a joyful smile, Hinata leapt onto the roofs. Naruto muttered, So cute, and turned to leave. Over a table, Sakura stood with a minor cut on a civilian patient who sat nearby and watched curiously. Sakura, remember what I taught you. Concentrate on your chakra, and let it wash over your hands and out of your tenketsu points, said the medic nin who was standing nearby. Sakura scrunched her face up in concentration and nodded. She was delighted to see the cut gradually go away. At last, it vanished, and she gazed at the medic nin with joy. She exclaimed, I did it, with delight. The middle-aged, brown-haired, spectacle-wearing medical ninja nodded. Very good, Sakura, however, you need to practice more, she replied. Sakura gave a hearty nod. After thanking her, the patient left the room. Sakura gazed at her hands, which then clenched into fists. She was committed to improving and becoming stronger. She was the only member of the now defunct Team 7 remaining after Naruto and Hinata had graduated. She now strives to work hard to succeed as a result of this and a constant shift in her mindset. She would put in a lot of effort in her own way, even though she wasn't as smart as Naruto or as adaptable or talented as Hinata. Tsunade was standing a few kilometers away from Konohagakure, Shizune, holding Taunton. The gates gradually opened as they approached Konoha at a leisurely pace, and a sizable crowd began to slowly filter in, accompanied by numerous entrance guards serving as a policing unit and a show of force. There were 2 reasons for the festival. One goal was to draw tourists, who would then spend money on repairs after the sand and sound attack, boosting the local economy. The other was to demonstrate that they had not been weakened by the attack on Konoha. Many ninjas were away on missions to make money because they had lost a few good ones, but the losses weren't significant. The real goal was to entice Tsunade out of hiding, but only to a few. 1 stone, 2 birds. With concern, Shizune questioned, Are you sure about this, Tsunade? They both wore henjin disguises, and Tsunade had a large sum of money in her pockets, the majority of which she had obtained illegally from different loan sharks and daimyos. While Shizune appeared to be a long-haired brunette, Tsunade had the appearance of a young, red-headed woman in her 20s. Both dressed in brownish attire to blend in with the surroundings, and many wealthy people wore gaudy-colored robes. I am certain. We're going in, winning some money and getting out straight away, Tsunade replied. Shizune gave a nod, and they moved cautiously toward Konoha's gates. In the Hokage's office, Jiraiya stood beside Hiruzen, gazing into his crystal ball. The key element was secrecy, and the Anbu guards were gone. Tsunade would sense it and return to hiding, so they didn't want a big commotion that she was back in Konoha. Jiraiya questioned, "Has she taken the bait?" In the crowd, Hiruzen identified two figures, one of whom was holding a pig. Jiraiya smiled. With a laugh, Jiraiya remarked, "She can't go anywhere without her beloved ton. Let her gamble for a bit, lower her guard. Then it's up to you and Naruto to convince her," Hiruzen said. Jiraiya retorted, "I'm sure the Gaki will find some way to get her to stay." Sarutobi grinned. Future Hokage written all over him. Jiraiya appeared beside Naruto as he got to his feet. Naruto said, "It's 9. What do you want me for?" He was told to go talk on the roofs by Jiraiya. Both of them leapt, landing on the roof out of sight and sound. "Naruto, I need you to come with me to several places. My old teammate Senju Tsunade is here, and the Hokage and I believe that she should become the next Hokage," Jiraiya replied. Naruto appeared a little taken aback. Naruto remarked, "But Tsunade left years ago." "Yes, but she's back. It's up to us to convince her to take on the mantle of Hokage," said Jiraiya. In one room sat a group of Hyuga elders. As proud men and women who had experienced the great ninja wars, they were all of the older generation. They were all former shinobi who had been in the area for a long time and had once been strong and proud. Despite their advanced age, they continued to occupy significant positions of authority. When another group of stupid elders tried to overrule the clan during the Chunin, this group of Hyuga used those foolish elders who would oppose their plans to restore the glory of the Hyuga. This group of Hyuga had survived the purge from the rest of the clan. Now that they were underground and out of sight, they would attack. Her posture was stiff and royal, but the elders' leader spoke in a croaky old voice. When she was younger, she was a prodigy among the Hyuga and a brilliant shinobi. Ingenious, cunning, and dangerous. You don't want to be enemies with them. Hyuga Chizu was her name. "I have called this meeting because there are reports that the heiress, Hinata, is in a relationship with Uchiha Naruto," she stated. With that, the other 6 people in the room immediately erupted in protest. As an elder male said, "This is madness. The Sharingan is a stolen version of our Kekkei Genkei. This cannot be allowed to happen," Tomodori concurred. Another exclaimed, "We must not allow this to continue. This is an outrage to our ancestors," Midori added. Chizu held up her hand to silence them. "We must force the heiress to break away this abomination of a relationship. We cannot allow the blood of the Hyuga to be watered down," she said. Slowly and steadily, Ruoni said, "The boy is carefully protected by the fool of a Hokage Hiruzen, as well as Jiraiya. So what must we do? We cannot threaten him, as he is one of the last 2 Uchiha. We must do something," Midori murmured. They gazed expectantly at Chizu as she smiled at them. "As we know, Hiashi cannot be in all places at once. He must not know of this arrangement that I will bring up. Hyuga Hinata must break up with Uchiha Naruto within a month, nor tell him or anyone else about this and to never associate with him again," stated Chizu. Ruoni questioned, "How would we come about this?" "It is simple. Hinata is kind at heart. We threaten the 2 closest to her, Neji of the branch family, and Hanabi, her sister. We will forcibly kill Neji, and brand Hanabi with the cursed seal should she refuse. She cannot refuse. Her heart will not let her," declared Chizu, a smile on her face. The elders of the Hyuga smiled one by one. Yes, under their leadership, the Hyuga would return to its former splendor. Tsunade had won a ton of money, and it was now 2 o'clock. She wore a frown while everyone was shocked by her winnings. This wasn't good. Shizune sat beside her, dollar signs gleaming in his eyes. Tsunade drank sake while Taunton drank a small bowl of milk while they sat in a bar booth. Neither had been recognized thus far, and both were still wearing their disguises. "Tsunade, you're winning. Maybe your luck has improved," Shizune joyfully exclaimed. Tsunade tightened her jaw. She was aware that bad things happened to her when she won at gambling. She was uncomfortable the entire time she won. It was an instinct that only became apparent when her former teammate Jiraiya entered the booth from the opposite side, followed by a young, blonde ninja who appeared to be a Chunin. But she recognized the blood and the face structure right away. He was Naruto, the son of Kushina and Minato. Jiraiya grinned and said, "It's nice to see you again, Tsunade." Shizune had seen through their disguises and appeared alarmed. "Jiraiya, what do you want?" Tsunade said, letting go of the henge. Jiraiya turned back to Shizune after giving her a nod. Hiruzen is going to retire, and we want you to be the next Hokage, Jiraiya replied. Tsunade, a Hokage, snorted. Tsunade filled her shot and raised it to her mouth, spitting out, the Hokage position is stupid, fools who die for nothing. A very agitated Chunin slapped the shot out of her hand before it could reach it. Tsunade caught Naruto's attention. He said icily, I dare you to say that again, and the room's temperature dropped by a few degrees. Your arms have suffered far too much damage, Orochimaru. Sama. In the condition you're in, not even Tsunade could help you, a trembling Kabuto said, pressing his glasses to his face. Orochimaru's plans were in ruins, and he spat on the ground in anger as he stared at his useless arms at the hands of the Kyuubi brat and Jiraiya. He knew that his master hated bad news, and he was sweating because he had failed to kill the old foolish Hokage and the invasion of Konoha had failed with the defeat of the Suna and Sound Ninjas. I have to move my soul into a new host. Get the prisoners ready for battle. After these 3 years, I will take Sasuke's body. And he will come to me, smiled Orochimaru. Kabuto turned to face Orochimaru, who was mentally plotting. Kabuto said, very well, I will go unleash the prisoners, and turned to leave. As Kabuto hurried out of the room, Orochimaru cackled. Orochimaru laughed hysterically as he said, with the host of the Uchiha, I will have the world at my fingertips in 3 years. After some time, a large, rugged-looking man appeared in front of Orochimaru, accompanied by Kabuto and 2 sound ninjas. I have beaten my rivals. Release me, he said firmly. The man coiled back in horror with a scream of fear, and Orochimaru smiled at him before he shed his skin and changed into a large snake. He tried to turn, but he ran straight into the 2 sound ninjas, one of whom slammed his knee into his gut, and he moaned as he fell, turning feebly to the swaying Orochimaru. Yes, since your body is now mine, I will release your soul, Orochimaru hissed, revealing large fangs in his snake form, and the last thing the man saw was a large snake head speeding toward him. He felt a small bite on his neck, and everything turned black. The 2 shinobi recoiled, turning away from the gory procedure, while Kabuto stood there, emotionless. Things like this no longer alarmed him. To him, it was almost like a typical day at the office. A scream of pain was heard, but no one even flinched. They were already accustomed to it, having had hundreds of experiments done continuously. Tsunade regarded Naruto with mild amusement and annoyance as he glared at her. You're brave, kid. Don't mess with her sake, Jiraiya muttered to himself. You heard me, youngster. Each and every Hokage is a fool who died for nothing. Tsunade declared, the first, second, and fourth are all idiots. Retraction is necessary. Chan. Being Hokage is my dream, Naruto said softly and icily. Tsunade shook away visions of her brother and lover who had died, and her eyebrows shot up in surprise. Chan? You're brave, young one. I'll grant you that, but for playing with me, you're a fool. How about you, Hokage? Let me rest. I advise you to apologize before you were harmed, she said casually. Naruto hissed, I'll say I'm sorry when you retract what you said, Chan. With a migraine starting, Shizune held up a hand to her head. Taunton had paused his meal and appeared perplexed, while Jiraiya appeared curious, waiting to see what they would do. Tsunade grinned and got to her feet. Now, training ground 51, hurry up. Tsunade lifted a green gem necklace and said, I'll give you this necklace and accept the offer to become Hokage if you can make me use more than one finger. Tsunade. Sama. What a precious necklace. Shizune yelled, frightening Taunton. Before turning back to Naruto, Tsunade gave Shizune a fierce look to keep her quiet. What if I lose? Naruto inquired. As Tsunade put it, give up your dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto gave a nod of agreement. Jiraiya's eyes glowed with joy as they stood at training ground 51, Naruto facing Tsunade, who had dropped her henge to reveal her blonde hair and return to her normal body. Pervert. Tsunade muttered. Naruto gazed at Tsunade below. Brat, you won't get anywhere with glares. Tsunade lifted her pinky and taunted, one finger. After closing his eyes, Naruto opened them. With the effect of his bloodline, he muttered, Sharingan. Tsunade's lips curled into a smile as her eyes widened a little. Cute trick. She mocked. After ignoring her remark, Naruto pulled out his katana. He started, I am the bone of my sword. As Tsunade's eyes widened, Naruto glared at him and Jiraiya slapped him on the head, using unlimited blade works, the jutsu that earned Kushina the moniker, Red Death. For what purpose was that? Naruto glared angrily as he asked. Until you're older, no unlimited blade works. If you're still growing from the strain of the jutsu, it destroys your body, Jiraiya said. After scowling, Naruto turned back to face Tsunade, sheathed his blade ironically, and charged forward, with Tsunade waiting to greet him. It was time for her to become serious. His fist struck her pinky, and he ducked under his roundhouse kick. She swung her pinky at his face, but he ducked and planted his right arm on the ground, attempting to leg sweep Tsunade. She leapt back, and Naruto did a windmill with both legs, landing on both feet. Naruto jumped above the cracks and Tsunade immediately ran through the cloud, back into the open air, while she chopped downward, her pinky splitting the ground. Naruto was nowhere to be seen. Assassination has two methods. The element of surprise must come first. A voice from the smoke murmured, the first strike must have caused a fatal wound. Tsunade clenched her teeth, braced for anything, and two Narutos erupted from the smoke. One threw a kunai, the other a shuriken. Tsunade jumped up, but when she looked up, she saw Naruto emerge from the sun with his foot coming down in an axe. Kick. She raised her pinky, and Naruto's foot slammed into it, before she sent him flying with a hit. She smiled, but was taken aback when the Naruto poofed into a cloud, while she remained in midair, with 10 Fuma shurikens swirling around her. Before the shuriken attacked her, Naruto declared, my first original technique. When the shuriken suddenly appeared, Tsunade swore and then used every limb to obliterate them all. She landed unharmed on the ground, her hair covering her face, and she lifted it to reveal a true smile. Tsunade stood up straight and removed the necklace from her neck, saying, you have guts, kid. She approached him, hung it around his neck, and was shocked when Naruto returned the smile and deactivated his Sharingan. Naruto nodded and remarked, I knew there was someone far greater than in the exterior of what I saw. Tsunade ruffled his hair and laughed, then looked at Jiraiya. Jiraiya, you found yourself a great kid, she stated. Jiraiya gave her a smile. Naruto remarked, and Konoha has found a great Hokage. He seemed to bring out the best in everyone, Hinata, Zabuza, Haku, and now Tsunade, the soon-to-be Hokage, as she gazed down at him with affection before bending down and kissing his forehead. With a laugh, Jiraiya said, you're getting soft in your old age. Tsunade straightened up and turned to Jiraiya, her eyebrow twitching. How on earth did you call me? With the temperature dropping to freezing, she inquired. Crap, Jiraiya muttered. Her father had been impressed by her effort and hard work, and he had to actually try to defend himself. He said that he was proud of her, which made her day even better. Hinata hummed joyfully as she walked down the compound's hallway. As she passed a closed door, Shizu's head protruded from the meeting room, and Hinata grinned at the elder. Hinata smiled and said, hello Shizu. Sama. Hi Hinata. Chan, kindly enter. Shizu smiled and said, there is something we need to discuss with you.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.